Stuart Michaels, an ex-Navy SEAL, is on the run from a shadowy past. He meets Emily, a young woman stranded by her boyfriend on a lonely riverbank. Their connection ignites instantly, but as they sail down the Mississippi, danger closes in. Stuart's secrets and Emily's trust collide in a whirlwind of passion and peril. With each mile, the tension builds. Can they outrun the past, or will it destroy them both? In a world where love and survival clash, every choice could be their last. The Kenny Rogers song popped into my head for no reason. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I was on a Tennessee highway waiting for the patrol officer. I'd given up caring about what would happen next. The officer approached, phone in hand, talking to his superior. "Yes, sir, it's him. If not, he stole the car." He handed me the phone. "It's my boss," he said, "and if you don't help, we're in trouble." I took the phone. "Why bother him? He's just doing his job. If you're in trouble, own up to it. Half the country's looking for you because the president wants a word. Don't mess with me, or you'll be in deeper trouble by morning." "Forget it," I replied. "Send your best agent to take me in. I don't care." "Fine, someone's coming. You'll talk, whether you like it or not." I ended the call and told the officer to show me the best truck stop. He seemed relieved and led me to a smaller one nearby. "Food's better here," he said. We ordered. I went for a big breakfast despite it being 9 p.m. We chatted, and I sensed he wanted to improve his community. I didn't discourage him, though I was exhausted. Another officer arrived, signaling the end of Jenkins's shift. I tipped the waitress generously, then followed the new officer outside. He led me to a black limousine. Inside, I was surprised to see Sylvia. "Hi, Stuart," she said. "I wasn't sent. I just happened to be nearby." "Yeah, I've hit rock bottom," I admitted. "Want a drink before the call?" "Scotch, please." As she poured, she asked, "Where are you headed?" "Honestly, no idea. Maybe Alaska, Hawaii. I just want to disappear." She smiled. "You left in a hurry. Anything I need to handle?" "Just a tab at the pub under $100. "I'll take care of it." "Stuart, why are you still working?" "I moved to the Department of the Interior, keeping a low profile. They've mostly forgotten me." "They won't," I said. "You know too much." "Don't remind me," she sighed. "Knowing the truth doesn't set you free, it just adds weight." "So, what's the plan?" I asked. "Keep my name out of it. Make the call, say what they want. I've already told them what they needed, but they want more. I don't know what else to say." "That's why I left," I explained. "Then you're on your own," she replied. "I can give you a day, maybe share some names and addresses." "I'd like that," I said. "Let's get this done. I want to be on the road in an hour." She handed me a secure phone. "Just remember, I'm not here," she reminded me. I nodded, called in, and waited for the familiar voice. "Hello, Stuart. I hear we might have a problem." "You don't have a problem. I do," I replied. "Good. Get over it. I need you back in 72 hours for a speech. You're the best writer here." "Sorry, Mitchell, I'm out of clever words. Just tell the truth for once." "I can't. People wouldn't like it." "Then ask Santa for courage this Christmas. You've been afraid for years. Call me when you find some." "Stuart, that's not fair. I do what's necessary to keep this country safe. You're good at flattering the powerful." "Then reconnect with the group. Maybe they'll forgive you. I don't care about their worries, just like they don't care about mine." "Stuart, this outburst doesn't suit you. You were better when you were brave. Now you can't even connect with your wife. She's moved on. That's enough. Jennifer's changed. Please stop criticizing her. You have 48 hours to calm down and come back." The call ended, and I handed the phone back to Sylvia. "That was quite a show," she said. "I hope you live long enough to do it again." "I don't want to do it again. I just want to leave." "Where will you go?" "Maybe Washington, Oregon, or Montana. I'll figure it out." "You know you're not welcome anywhere now, right?" "I know. I need to move fast, get a drink, a meal, and disappear." "Good luck, Stuart," she said, slipping an envelope into my hand. I stepped out, ignoring the guard, and drove onto the highway. Within 10 minutes, I had a plan. I needed to be mostly hidden within 24 hours. My first stop was 50 miles away. At the rest area, I tossed my cell phone in the trash. I knew my signal could be tracked, so I left all electronic devices behind, storing everything else on flash drives. My escape plan was set. In 2 weeks, Stuart Michaels would be gone, replaced by Roger Fender. I drove to a secluded dirt path leading to an old barn where I had hidden a plain, inconspicuous Ford pickup. The truck, registered under a false name, was ready for the journey. After changing into jeans and a western shirt, I started the truck and headed down the road, avoiding main highways. By dawn, I reached a small river town, feeling relatively safe. I had breakfast at a diner, keeping a low profile before heading to the marina. At the marina, my 40-foot boat waited, registered to Roger Fender. I'd bought it cheaply after a storm and had it fully restored with a new diesel engine. The boat looked like a typical work vessel, but was comfortable inside. Perfect for my 6-month plan. I paid the marina in cash, then gathered the last of my supplies, preparing to set off at sunrise. After visiting the storage yard, I hooked up the rented trailer and loaded it with groceries. 8 bags, 3 cases of beer, and a case each of wine and scotch. I parked at the dock, unloaded everything, and made sure the fridge and freezer were working before returning the trailer and paying in cash. Back at the storage yard, I swapped the Tennessee plates on my truck for Louisiana ones, secured the vehicle under a tarp, and walked back to the marina. In my new cabin, I reflected on how exposed I still was, hoping my precautions would keep me hidden. I poured a drink and settled on the deck, only to be interrupted by Mark. He introduced me to a young woman named Emily, who had been stranded by her boyfriend. She needed a ride to catch up with him or to get back to St. Louis. Though I had planned to travel alone, I decided taking her along could help me maintain my new identity. I invited Emily aboard, offering her a drink to calm her nerves. As she relaxed, she explained her situation. Her boyfriend had abandoned her, leaving her without her belongings. She was a 20-year-old student from Washington University in St. Louis. I reassured her I wasn't a bad person and that I had no ties holding me back. When she offered to cook, I gladly accepted, thinking her company might be a good thing after all. I'm used to quick meals like heating up a can, but there's no microwave on the boat. I'd love your help with cooking. When do we set off? Tomorrow at sunrise. This boat's bigger than what I'm used to, so I plan to spend the day getting familiar with it, stopping at docks or anchoring along the way. That sounds great, she said, then added, "Oh no, I only have what I'm wearing, right?" "Finish your drink," I said, "and we'll go get you some clothes." She hesitated, but I insisted. "I'm offering, not asking. You can pay me back later if you want." After shopping for some essentials, we returned to the boat. I gave her a tour, showing her the kitchen, living area, bathroom, and the sleeping quarters. "You can sleep here and I'll take the cot." "I won't take your bed," she said. "The cot's not very comfy. We can share the bed and put a pillow between us if it helps." "We'll see," she replied. "Now how about dinner?" We checked the fridge and decided to grill steaks with salad and baked potatoes. I set up the grill while she prepared the potatoes. Once everything was ready, we settled into the cockpit with our drinks, toasting to our new adventure. As we relaxed, Emily opened up about her situation. "I called him my boyfriend, but he wasn't really. We were just dating and he was seeing others too. He treated me well, took me to nice places, so when he invited me on this river trip with his roommate and girlfriend, I thought it would be a fun break before summer school. My dad trusted him, so I agreed to go." That sounds fair, but I guess things changed quickly. Yes, they did. When I arrived, he mentioned his roommate's girlfriend had broken up with him, so he brought some friends along. Guys, of course. I thought about leaving, but he assured me everything would be fine, so I stayed. This was his first time captaining the boat alone. It belonged to his father, but he'd never led a long trip before. The first 2 days were fine. The guys were friendly enough, though they drank a lot. This morning, one of them casually mentioned I'd be sharing a room with the group for the rest of the trip. I was uncomfortable and asked to be dropped off at the next stop, which they did. I guess I was naive. No, you were misled. There's a difference between being naive and being taken advantage of. You're safe now, and everything will be okay. Thank you. I'm really glad you were here to help me. When do you need to be back in St. Louis for summer school? By Wednesday. Classes start Thursday. It'll take about 4 days to reach Mobile, so I might need to fly back Tuesday night or Wednesday morning if there are any delays. but I'd like to try to get to Mobile and see if I can retrieve my purse with my ID and phone. All right, we'll head down the river and try to get your things back. When should we start the stakes? In about 10 minutes. Want another drink? I'll wait and have some wine with dinner. As I finished my drink, Marquette came by with some ropes. Did you and Emily come to an agreement? Yes, she cooks, I navigate. It's a good deal. Good. A strong storm's coming tonight. It should pass by midnight, but I've added extra ropes to the other boats for safety. Here are a couple for you. Swap the ones on the port side and add these to the starboard side to secure your boat. Thanks. I'll handle it now. We plan to leave at dawn, so I'll be cautious of any debris in the river. I rechecked the ropes, securing the boat. Emily appeared with a plate of meat. What's happening? The owner warned about a storm tonight, so I retied the boat. It'll be safe. Are you sure that will work? Trust me, I haven't steered you wrong yet. She smiled. Time to cook, grill master. I started grilling, but mosquitoes quickly descended. Change of plans. We'll eat inside to avoid becoming dinner ourselves. After battling the mosquitoes, I brought the steaks inside. We enjoyed our first meal together, toasting to our journey. Dinner inside was a good call, as the sun was setting and the mosquitoes were getting worse. We decided on a big lunch and a smaller dinner. After eating, I turned on the TV and caught the news. One of the president's top aides had gone missing, last seen in Tennessee. I knew my time was running out, maybe 24 hours at most. Emily jokingly suggested I get a dishwasher as she started on the dishes. I told her I already had one. Her. She playfully threw a sponge at me. I checked the doors and lines, ensuring everything was secure, then joined Emily in the lounge where she'd made coffee. As we sipped, thunder rumbled in the distance. Knowing we'd soon lose TV and radio signals, I put on some music and suggested we go to bed early to ride out the storm. She agreed. In the cabin, I left a football jersey on the bunk for her. She came out wearing it, the oversized shirt nearly reaching her knees. With the storm intensifying, she admitted she wasn't comfortable with storms and asked if she could cuddle up if it got worse. I wrapped my arm around her and we both soon fell asleep, the storm raging outside but feeling safe in each other's company. Morning brought calm after the storm. I carefully slipped out of bed, dressed, and started making coffee. Emily appeared, teasing me for not waking her, then took over the kitchen. She thanked me for being there during the storm, saying I made her feel safe. I stepped outside to check the boat and found everything in order. As the sky brightened, Emily brought me a cup of coffee, leaning against my back. It felt perfect, having her there. And I realized this was the kind of life I wanted. Simple, peaceful, and shared with someone who made it all feel right. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I can't tell you," I teased. "It would make you blush. You were thinking about me, weren't you?" "Was I? Just say it," she challenged with a smile. "You asked for it," I sighed playfully, enjoying the banter. Her playful hit on my arm was stronger than I expected. "Yes, I noticed you looking last night. Now turn around and take a good look," she teased. I turned to see her in the new shorts we bought, showing off her style with a blouse barely buttoned. "Do you like it?" "If I'm honest, I might get in trouble for what I'm thinking," I replied. "That doesn't sound like a compliment, but I'll take it. At least I know you're still alive." "Believe me, I feel a bit tired now. Do you want to leave and grab breakfast on the way, or eat first?" "I'm curious about why you're tired, but I guess you're not going to tell me. How about toast and fruit now, and something more filling later?" "Are you reading my mind? That's exactly how I want to start my day, though I've never managed to before." "You just need a lovely woman like me to make things interesting, that's all," she said, laughing as she headed back to the kitchen. Her playful banter was delightful, but I knew it could lead to complications. She returned with toast, jelly, grapes, and sliced apples. We ate quickly, then I started my tasks, unplugging the shore power, starting the generator, and firing up the engine. The boat ran smoothly as I backed it out of the slip, getting used to its power and size. With the main controls on top of the cabin, I had a clear view, making navigation easier. Once on the waterway, I noticed the boat's steady handling but slower response to turns. I realized I'd need to plan ahead, especially when we hit tighter turns and sandbars on the natural river. Emily brought coffee and travel mugs and began marking our route on the map. "What are you studying in school, Emily? You seem to know a lot about maps." I started in geology for the oil industry, but after taking a geography class, I got hooked. Cartography amazed me, so I'm thinking of switching my focus to maps. It turns out there's a big need for updated maps because things change all the time. Maps are crucial. I once got into trouble because of an outdated map. Exactly. That's why I want to make accurate maps. You should mark important spots and take notes so that even if things change, you'll know what to expect. You've just become our official navigator, as well as cook and dishwasher. How about we take turns with the dishes, Captain? She suggested. Do you know what happens if you upset the captain? Yes, but pirates don't worry about that, and you're not a pirate. Ahoy, matey! Maybe I'll become one, an eye-patch-wearing, daring pirate. Nice try, but you're not quite the type. Plus, you've only got one lady, not two. I'll find another on my journey. No way. That's not happening. Are you arguing with the captain again? There won't be an argument, Captain, she said with a smile. The boss has made a decision, caught by my own trick. You don't even know what a trick is, she teased. And it's hoisted by one's own petard. Whatever. Now a coffee refill will make the captain happy. Oh, we must keep the captain happy, right? She quipped before heading to the kitchen. I took a look through the binoculars and noticed something odd in the distance, about 10 miles away at a bend in the waterway. I slowed down as we approached, just in case. Emily returned with our coffee. Look straight ahead through the binoculars and tell me what you see, I said. She looked and gasped. Oh no, that looks like his boat. It's stuck on a sandbar or something. Let's get your things back and see if we can help them. What if we just leave them? She suggested. We could, but I think you'd prefer to get your things. Emily took the wheel while I prepped the fenders. As we approached, I saw 4 guys at the back of the boat, drinks in hand. I steered us close, cut the engine, and kept us steady with a pole. Emily stood with her hands on her hips, staring them down. Hey, look who decided to come back. Ready to apologize, Emily? One of them sneered. Not a chance, she shot back. Come on, help us out. We're stuck here and our engine's busted. My dad will pay you to tow us to the marina. I'm not a rescue boat, and I don't want your dad's money. Just hand over Emily's things. If you don't help, I'll toss her stuff in the water. If you do that, you'll regret it, I warned. Who do you think you are? He challenged. Just someone who's seen enough to know how this ends. Now hand over her things, or I'll call the river patrol and tell them I heard a woman scream. Then you can explain why Emily's stuff is on your dad's boat with no Emily around. He hesitated, then told one of his buddies, Jimbo, get her stuff. Jimbo reluctantly retrieved Emily's purse and suitcase. This isn't over, the guy muttered. Make sure you tell your dad everything that happened because I will. It might be best for you to forget about Emily. We pushed off and drifted down the river before I turned the boat back upstream. Emily brought me a soda and sandwich, standing quietly beside me. What's on your mind, Emily? You look like you want to say something. She smiled, clearly appreciative. Thank you. I can't find the right words to express how much I appreciate what you did. I hope Jeff listens to you and leaves you alone. His dad is powerful and could cause trouble. What's Jeff's full name? And who's his dad? He's Jefferson Martin III, and his father is Senator Jefferson Martin II. Not the most helpful person in Congress. You know him? She asked, surprised. I met him once at a fundraiser. He's a powerful man, but he's all talk. The acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. The senator could make things difficult if his son finds out who I really am, but I think he has bigger issues to deal with than a guy who raised his voice at his son. Emily paused. Were you really a SEAL in Afghanistan? Yes and no. I was a SEAL, but not based in Afghanistan. I'd rather not talk about it. It brings back painful memories. Okay, I won't ask again. What's next? We've got your things back. Should we head to St. Louis to make sure you get to registration on time? You're the captain. I'll follow your lead, she said, leaning her head on my shoulder. But you're in charge. Not anymore. At least not outside the kitchen. Emily, I enjoyed our time together, and I like how you joke with me. You don't have to change for me. Keep being yourself and teasing me. If you go too far, I'll let you know. I see you differently now. I'm still the same. You just got a glimpse of my past, but I'm 12 years older and have seen more of life. I think you're amazing, and I suspect you have a few secrets too, but that's okay, she laughed. I won't tell you anything. Great, surprise me. So, after we ask Marquette to send a boat for your friend, what do you want to do on the way back to St. Louis? She playfully hit my arm. He wasn't my boyfriend before, and he's not a friend now. I'll just store him away in my list of bad memories. It's better to forget him and move on. He's forgotten for the rest of the trip. I want to cook for you and see you smile. I want to enjoy the sunshine, but then you might stare, and I'd have to gently push you away. Also, I want you to teach me how to steer this boat. The smile and steering part are easy. The hard part is keeping my focus. You don't like how I look? No, it's just tough to concentrate with you around. Maybe that's what I want. You like to tease? You said you enjoy my teasing. Stuck by my own words, I sighed. She laughed and nudged me, whispering, "Don't try to be a pirate with me, or I'll have to give you a little smack, mister." "There's nothing little about me," I joked. "I noticed, but it would be funny to see you over my knee. Watch out! Payback can be tough." Oh, the captain threatens his crew. I'm so scared. As we neared the marina, I called Marquette on the radio. "Hey, Roger, I thought you'd be 50 miles downriver by now. Everything okay?" "No problems. Just sending you some work. The guys who left Emily are stuck on a sandbar about 10 miles downriver with a broken engine. They didn't check the weather before the storm. We said we'd send a rescue boat. I'll send one right away. The reckless one likes to flaunt his dad's money. I bet his dad won't mind paying double, charge them extra. There might be some things on that boat they'd rather keep hidden." "Yes, my cousin in River Patrol mentioned a rumor about some special items going downstream. I'll check the papers for the boat. That could be interesting, but be careful. His father is well known. Even better. Fathers will pay well to keep their children out of trouble and protect their image. You understand the situation perfectly. Have a safe journey, my friend. Stop by when you're back." "Will do." I put down the radio and turned to see Emily had changed into a swimsuit, though it seemed more for show than swimming. "What do you think? Is this style okay for the day? It's my first time wearing it. Will it make things easier or harder for you?" "I'm not sure you'd like my answer," I teased. "I can think of a few ways to keep you on your toes." "I'm going to catch some sun, then you can teach me more about driving this boat," she said with a grin. "You'll definitely keep things interesting." "That's the plan. Just don't hit that barge coming toward us," she joked before lying down on a towel. I noticed a barge heading our way, so I adjusted course to give it space. As we passed, I sounded the horn, and the pilot waved back, smiling and pointing toward Emily lounging in the cockpit. I gave him a playful whistle in response. "Congratulations," I called out to Emily. "You've made 2 men crazy this morning." "I only care about one of them," she replied, rolling onto her back with a smile. "Put on some clothes and come up for your first lesson." She soon joined me, wearing her loosely tied blouse. I could tell she was determined to make this trip interesting. I went over the boat's controls, emphasizing the importance of smooth, gradual movements. Then I warmed up some beef stew, adding fresh peppers, onions, and spices to enhance the flavor, and brought 2 bowls to the steering station. "I thought you couldn't cook," she remarked with a smile. "I didn't cook it, just added a few things. How's it going?" "Good, just like you said." "Great. Docking and anchoring will be the tricky parts, but we'll get to that later." We switched places so she could eat while I took over the controls. After a while, she asked, "Am I bothering you too much?" "No, I'm just not used to someone being this close to me." "Have you had a girlfriend recently?" "Not really. I've gone out with a few women, but nothing serious. I haven't spent much time getting to know anyone." "What kind of woman do you want to meet?" I thought for a moment. "I'm not sure. I like smart women who support me and let me support them. Someone who enjoys exploring and isn't caught up in trends. I guess I want someone who's fun to be around but serious when it comes to work. She doesn't need to fit a certain image, just be real and genuine." "So she doesn't need to be a certain size or have a specific hair color?" "No, I just want someone who's authentic. I'm tired of people who are all show and no substance. I don't expect perfection because I'm not perfect. If she accepts me as I am, I'll do the same for her." "What do you want in a man?" I asked. "I want the same things you want in a woman. I grew up in a comfortable home where we valued things that lasted. I've had a few boyfriends, but nothing serious. Most guys find it amusing when I say I want to be a geologist. Now that I'm into maps, they think it's funny. I want a man who's strong when needed and easygoing the rest of the time. I don't need a superhero, just someone who loves and supports me as I would for him." Sounds like we'd make a great couple. That's what I thought when you shared what you wanted. Are you open to dating someone younger? I'm 32. I'm not sure I could relate to a 16-year-old, and I wouldn't know how to connect with someone over 50. Other than that, age matters to me about as much as hair color. It's part of the attraction, but not the most important thing. It's only about a 2 out of 10, so there's hope for me, she said, excitement in her voice. Think of it this way. Out of all the women I've met since leaving the Navy, you're in my top 5. What happened to the other 4? 3 were married and 1 faced some tough problems and moved far away. So you were interested in married women? No, I just got to know them well enough to see a connection, but they were already taken. We never discussed anything beyond that. And the other one? She was unique. We didn't work directly together, but we collaborated on several projects. We shared a few meals, but she ended up in a difficult situation and had to leave town. She's doing okay now, but it's hard for her to trust people. When did you last see her? 4 days ago, for about 20 minutes. Do you still care about her? As a friend. We never moved past that, and I don't think we will. That's too bad. It sounds like there could have been something special. Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to predict the future. We can only see what today brings. Tomorrow is always uncertain. I learned that in the military. So, where are you headed now? You ask a lot of questions. I'm not just curious. I'm a young woman, she said with a hint of shyness. I'm not sure where I'm headed. I took some time off to figure things out, which is why I bought this boat. I want to see the Mississippi River, maybe travel down the Texas coast. Along the way, I hope to discover what I want to do next. Maybe I'll be a country singer or just a simple person in a small town. That's the best answer I can give. You wouldn't do well as a small-town drinker, and I can't picture you as a country singer. But you're probably right about the rest, she teased. Now, Captain, where should we stay for the night? There's a place about 15 miles ahead, a safe bay with a nice beach, she said after checking the map. Sounds perfect. Let me know when we're close, and I'll show you how to tie up for the night. As she headed to the kitchen, I sat alone, reflecting on our day. I felt a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, Emily made me feel hopeful about the future, but on the other, she had no idea about the darker parts of life I'd experienced, like the uncertainty of survival in hostile lands or dealing with powerful people disconnected from reality. She didn't know the man she was teasing was hiding from those dark experiences, running from a life he wanted to forget. I knew I had to protect her from these harsh realities and take her back to her safe life. She would face her own challenges in time, but I hoped she would never see the eyes that haunted me. The eyes of men with too much power, like Jefferson Martin III, who could cause as much harm as those I faced in Afghanistan. The thought chilled me, and I knew I'd need more than a few drinks to shake it off. An hour later, after I had calmed down a bit, Emily returned and handed me a drink. It's almost time to reach our destination, she said. So, Captain, how do I park this thing? I couldn't help but smile. She had a way of pulling me out of my thoughts. We've got about a mile to go. When we get there, we need to face into the wind for the night. If the water's deeper than 2 or 3 feet, we can get close to shore and secure the boat to a tree. If not, we'll anchor farther out. Which way is the wind blowing? It's coming from the west. We'll enter the bay slowly, watching the water's color to gauge depth. If it looks light, it's too shallow. Darker water means we're good. We'll go slow, too fast, and we could get stuck. Here's the entrance. Are we going too fast? No, this is just right. Where did you stop the other night? He dropped anchor in the middle of the bay. That's lucky. If he'd gone further, he might have damaged his dad's boat. I guided her to a spot on the south side, had her reverse to stop the boat, and dropped the anchor. It caught quickly, so I threw out the back anchor too. Turn off the engine, I called. Suddenly we were enveloped in quiet. A nice change. I took a rope, walked ashore, and tied it to a tree. Emily watched me, curious. Why did you do that? I thought we'd use an anchor on the side. This is just a safety line. We're facing the wind now, so the anchors will hold. But if the wind shifts, this rope will keep us close to shore. That seems like a lot to remember. It's not too bad. Once you learn to sail on a river, you can do it almost anywhere. The key is to keep the front of the boat facing the wind and anchor securely. Rivers change a lot, like the Mississippi with its shifting sandbars, so you have to pay attention. You make it sound so easy. It's simple, not easy. It's all about common sense and a bit of knowledge. I hope I can learn it. Want to go for a walk on the beach? Let me grab my shoes. No need. I'll carry you. She smiled. For that nice comment, I'll let you. But if you drop me, you'll regret it. I'm really scared, I joked, more focused on how nice it felt to hold her. She stepped onto the boat's edge and I gently picked her up. She wrapped her arms around my neck, and for those few steps it felt like she belonged there. I reluctantly set her down, but she kept holding onto my neck for a moment. Thank you, kind sir, she said with a smile, finally letting go but taking my hand as we began to walk along the narrow beach. Unlike an ocean beach, this river beach had only a bit of debris washed up, making it simple and serene. The area looked like it had been set up for boaters, with old campfire spots and bits of trash scattered around. Despite the mess, I enjoyed walking next to Emily, talking about her school and dreams. Her aspirations were simple but important to her, and I hoped she'd achieve them, though a part of me worried the world might dull her enthusiasm. For now, I just appreciated her positive energy. As we walked back to the boat, she teased, "So are you going to carry me back to the boat this time? I liked it when you picked me up and took me away into the sunset." "Oh, so I should carry you back so you can make dinner?" I joked. She smiled. "I just love the romance in you. When will you show it more?" "It's just a shy little puppy hiding away. Come on, carry me like you mean it," she urged. I picked her up and set her down on the platform, her arms still around my neck. She smiled and pulled me closer before stepping into the cockpit. I watched her walk away, feeling a mix of emotions, knowing she needed to leave and I had to move on. Back in the cabin, she had a drink ready for me while she started dinner. I wanted to watch her, but I turned on the TV to check the weather instead. No major storms were expected for the next week, giving me time to take her back to St. Louis before continuing south. Dinner was chicken with rice and green olives, a dish she had recreated from a Moroccan restaurant she loved. It was delicious, and I was glad she was there. I couldn't do this alone very often. After dinner, we watched *The Fugitive*. She sat beside me, and though it felt nice, the movie's chase scenes made me uneasy. I had a couple more drinks, knowing sleep might not come easy later. When the movie ended, she smiled and said, "It's time for bed, Captain. Play some soft music while I get the bed ready." "Emily, I think I might have a hard time sleeping tonight. Maybe I should sleep out here and not disturb you." "Don't be silly. You're sleeping in your bed tonight. You kept me safe from the storm last night, so I'll keep you safe tonight. Come on, don't argue with me." There was something about her that made me listen, so I followed her to the bed. Despite my worry, she gently urged me to get ready for bed. I closed my eyes, but the memories came flooding back. The eyes, the sly smile, the explosions, and the haunting visions from Afghanistan. I started shaking, barely noticing as she settled in beside me, wrapping her arm under my neck and around my chest. That night was a blur of sweat, sounds, and tears. The eyes haunted me, searching for me, refusing to leave. At some point, I must have finally fallen asleep. When I woke, sunlight was streaming through the window, and I realized I was still in Emily's arms. "You're not going anywhere, darling. I'm here to keep you safe," she whispered, her hand gently touching my chest as she held me closer. "Emily, I'm sorry. I should have slept on the cot or somewhere else. No, you were exactly where you needed to be. Whatever you were going through must have been awful, but it's okay now. I was here, and I kept you safe. I'm not sure I'll ever feel truly safe again. You just haven't had someone watching out for you before. Now you do. Emily, just relax. We have things to do." Her hand moved gently down my chest, and I felt a rush of warmth. She smiled reassuringly, and I fell silent, feeling her closeness. She held me tightly, guiding us through the moment, providing a comfort I hadn't known I needed. As I let go of my worries, a wave of emotion washed over me, and I quietly expressed it, finding solace in her presence. Tears welled up in my eyes, and Emily gently wiped them away. We sat quietly for a moment before I spoke. "Emily, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have treated you that way." She looked at me curiously. "What do you mean, Captain? I guess I lost control. I don't really know." "Well, I do. You didn't use me. I made my own choices. I wanted to be close to you, even when you were trying not to reach out. It felt incredible when we were together, better than anything I've felt before. I may be younger, but I think I understand you more than you realize. Next time, I want you to fully embrace the moment. I know you have your struggles, but remember, I'm here for you." She smiled warmly. "So, what were you saying?" "I think you understand all of this better than I do. I don't know much about you beyond what you've shared, but I want to be part of your present, close to you until you feel differently. You mentioned I'm in your top 5. Well, I think we make a great team." I playfully tapped her arm. "You'll never just be a partner to me. If you want to be mine, I'll accept you fully because you're a wonderful woman and I really enjoy our time together. That's how I feel. Take it or leave it." "I'll take it," she said. "Now let's get moving. But I hope you want to be close to me every night and morning until we reach St. Louis. After that, we can figure things out." "That sounds amazing, but I'm not sure what you'll get from it." "You men really don't get it, do you? Besides the enjoyment, I'll get to know an interesting man who makes me feel good and safe. There are only 2 other men I feel as safe with, my father and uncle. Now, are you going to hold me close again, or get this boat moving?" Decisions, I teased. I playfully rolled her onto her back and we enjoyed another hour together, her laughter filling the space. All that mattered was making her smile, and seeing her happiness made everything else fade away. Afterward, as she lay glowing with contentment, she whispered something I couldn't quite catch. "What did you say?" She pulled me closer and repeated softly, "Don't tell anyone this, but I care about you. Did you hear me, Captain?" "Yes, ma'am, loud and clear." "Good. Now don't say it back until you really mean it. Let's get out of this swamp. I'll fix breakfast." "You drive a tough deal," I said, gently pulling away. "But I need help with the anchors first." "Just like a man, needing a woman's help but not admitting it until there's work to do," she teased. "Start the engine and I'll be up in a minute." I quickly put on some shorts, got the engine and generator running, then climbed out to untie the line and bring it back on board. When I returned to the steering station, Emily wrapped her arms around me. "What should I do now?" she asked, smiling brightly. "Put it in reverse, but don't push the gas too much. I'll pull up the line by hand, then we'll move to the front and pull up the big anchor as we move forward." 5 minutes later, the anchors were up, and I took over the steering as she headed down the steps. I took her arm and pulled her close. "You're an incredible partner." Finally, a nice compliment. "Thank you, dear," she said with a smile, heading below deck as I navigated toward the calmer side of the river. A few minutes later, we passed a party boat and a large barge moving downriver. About 20 minutes later, Emily returned, wearing one of my long, sleeveless shirts buttoned halfway down. She handed me a plate of scrambled eggs, sausage, and biscuits with jelly. "Thank you. By the way, do you like that shirt?" I asked. "I do," she smiled. "I told you I'm here for you whenever you want me, and I want to be ready when you call. I think it looks great on you." "I'm glad you think so. It feels nice to wear. As long as you're okay with it, I'll wear it when we go through towns or near other boats. Consider it yours. Did you have breakfast yet?" "I had a little while. I made yours. I'll eat when you're done." I enjoyed my meal while it was still warm, with Emily standing beside me, one hand on the wheel. When I finished, she leaned closer with a smile. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm going to have my breakfast now. Just focus on the river." She ate her meal, smiling as she did so. When she finished, she stood up and said, "That was even better than I expected. You can count on this happening more." "Is this really the first time you've done that?" "Yes, it is. I promised myself I wouldn't get too close to anyone until I found someone I truly love. Once I found that person, I'd be ready to share wonderful experiences together. Now we've discovered one more thing we can enjoy." "Was I good enough for you?" "You were amazing. Just focus on me and how you feel," I replied. "I'm really focused on you. You make me feel so loved. It's almost overwhelming." She leaned in closer and we shared a gentle, tender moment. She whispered, "I love you so much," before drifting off to sleep. I was glad she did because I was ready to join her. I pulled her close, holding her tightly as we both fell asleep. The next morning I woke up before the sun. The smell of coffee filled the air, and I saw Emily standing beside the bed with a cup. "Why are you standing there with coffee?" You should be in bed with me, enjoying yours too, I said. She smiled brightly. I feel so great this morning. I didn't know what to do, so I made coffee. Then grab your cup and come to bed with me. I can think of many fun things we can do together. Yes, of course. She placed my cup down, went to get hers, and snuggled up beside me, resting her head on my shoulder. I guess you liked last night, I teased. She gave a gentle kiss to my chest and ran her hand over my stomach. My aunt mentioned it, but I wasn't ready for how amazing it would be. I've never felt so alive and excited before. I think you enjoy spending time together, don't you? Yes. For me, it's a very special way to show care for someone who appreciates it. You mean some women don't like it? She asked, surprised. Absolutely. Many men won't do it, and some women aren't comfortable with it. I've never been with anyone who got as into it as you did. Really? Do you like to do that often? With you, I enjoy it, and almost everything else, whenever you want. Is it okay if I ask you for that sometimes? Yes. And if you don't ask, feel free to express what you want. You can move closer if you want, or just tell me to carry on. She hesitated. Roger, I haven't been with many guys, just 1 in high school and 3 in college, and 2 of those weren't very exciting. My aunt told me a lot about these things, but she advised me to wait for the right guy. She said when the right person comes along, everything will feel easy and natural, and she was right. You talked about your dad, uncle, and aunt. What about your mother? She passed away when I was 7. My dad took care of me during the school year, but he often had to travel, so I stayed with my uncle and aunt. My aunt is like a second mother to me. She's really nice. And so are my dad and uncle. Tell me about them. My dad and Uncle Tom are twin brothers. They both served in the Navy. Uncle Tom was a Navy SEAL and my dad worked in intelligence. My mom and aunt were also in the Navy. My mom was a nurse and Aunt Carla worked in their legal office. The Navy even helped her go through law school. My parents met and got married in Virginia. Uncle Tom and Carla met and married in California. After getting married, my parents moved back to Missouri. Mom worked as a nurse while Dad went to graduate school. Carla and Uncle Tom stayed in Virginia after they finished their service, but they all got together 3 or 4 times a year. When Mom passed away, they decided to move to St. Louis to be closer to Dad and me. So, I mostly grew up during the school year in Columbia and spent summers in St. Louis unless all 4 of us went on a trip together. So, what do they all do? Dad is a history teacher at the university. He teaches military history with a focus on naval history. That's why he travels during the summers, visiting places I can't go. He's written several books on the subject, and Carla is still a lawyer, working a lot with government contracts. Uncle Tom is a police officer. What about your family? Not much to say. I grew up in East Texas. My parents were teachers, but they died in a car accident when I was 16. I don't have any siblings, and I think I have a couple of aunts, but I'm not sure. My high school coach and his wife took care of me until I finished school. Then I joined the Navy, later becoming a SEAL. I thought it would be my career, but life had other plans. After the service, I went to college in Virginia with Navy support and started my business there. Now I'm just trying to figure out where to settle down and start something new. Do you know what you want to do next? Yes, I do. I want to be close to you. And what's holding you back? You know how it is. I need to get to know you better, show you that I'm serious. Then I need to spend time with you, being gentle and caring. You're stubborn, she teased. I'll handle the first part. You won't need to do anything. She was great at taking charge, but I couldn't resist getting involved. We shared a moment of closeness, each focused on the other. As the excitement built, she suggested, let's try something different. We shifted positions, and as we connected in new ways, she made soft sounds and the connection between us deepened. When I touched her gently, she reacted strongly. Let's finish together, she whispered, and I agreed. Afterward, she said, I liked that. We can do it that way any time. Is there anything you don't like? I don't like being touched in a way that feels disrespectful or undervalued. But with you, I can't think of anything I wouldn't like. You make me feel important. That's because you are important. Thank you. Now why don't you pretend to be the captain again while I make your breakfast? We should be back in St. Louis tomorrow afternoon or early the next morning. When she said that, it hit me. These lovely days were coming to an end. My heart felt heavy as I dressed and went to the helm. Starting the engine and untying the lines, the river, which had felt like a path to happiness, suddenly seemed like just a wet road to nowhere. A cloud passed overhead, blocking the sun, mirroring my mood. But when Emily returned with breakfast, the cloud moved away, and the sun shone brightly again. "What's with the frown, Captain?" "Honestly, it's not a big deal. I was just thinking about how close we are to getting you home. Our trip is almost over." "So, you're going to miss me?" "I've never felt this way about anyone before. Just thinking about you not being around makes me really sad." "Good. Keep that feeling in mind until we get back. I need to make some plans, and then we can talk about the summer." "Are you joking? You deserve it. But no, I'm serious. I just have a few things to take care of when we get back." "You can stay for a few days, right?" "I don't have anywhere special to go right away, but I don't want to stick around too long. I guess I could work on the boat for a couple of days." "Great. I can show you a marina where you can dock and stay." "Is that the same place where your old friend keeps his boat?" "No. And he wasn't my boyfriend. I didn't let him get too close. I might have if he hadn't acted so badly right after we left. And Carla told me to take things slow, which I'm glad I did." "You didn't take it slow with me. Because you're different. You showed me you care, and you keep making me think about you." "Good. And Carla said to keep you guessing. I need to have a talk with your Aunt Carla." "You will, and also with Dad and Uncle Tom. I'm in big trouble. They'll team up against me." "I hope so. Now, Captain, I have some things to take care of. Don't come near me unless you want to get close." I know. I'll steer clear unless invited." She took my plate and went below deck. I shook my head, trying to figure out how to escape without feeling foolish. An hour later, I decided to take the boat down the river for a couple of weeks, then come back and stay for a few days before heading back up the river. I planned to do this until school started in the fall. My goal was to keep moving, never staying in one place for too long. I figured that maybe in a year I wouldn't be of much concern to anyone, and then I could think about settling down in one spot, a place just for me. I even imagined having a partner and maybe a child, but I quickly pushed that thought aside, along with my other distant dreams. The rest of the day went smoothly as we traveled up the river to St. Louis. Emily asked me to steer into a channel on the south side of the city, leading us to a marina about half a mile inland. It wasn't fancy, but it had sturdy docks and a supply shop. I paid for 2 nights of docking and electricity, mentioning that I might stay an extra night or two, which made Emily smile. Then we returned to the boat, where she prepared dinner. She planned to leave in the morning to go home, change, and then head to the university for registration. She intended to come back afterward, but wasn't sure when. I promised to stay focused while she was gone, so we could make the most of our time together that night and the next morning before she left. After she departed, I checked the fluid levels on the boat, which were all fine, and spent the next hour organizing lines and storage areas. By 9:30, I was looking for something else to do, so I decided to paint the outside of the cabin. I bought a gallon of paint, a brush, and some exterior caulk from the marina's store, along with gold plastic letters to name the boat. By noon, I had painted one side of the cabin a gray-green and started on the front. I stopped for lunch, a homemade sandwich and a beer, which didn't quite compare to Emily's cooking. I considered inviting her to spend the summer with me, thinking I could just ask her when she returned. I finished painting the cabin by 4 o'clock when I heard footsteps on the dock. Looking up, I saw Emily smiling as she approached with 2 men and a woman. At first, I was happy to see her, but then a bit worried, unsure who the others were. Emily climbed down into the cockpit and greeted me warmly, while the others waited on the dock. "Why are you just standing there? Come on in," I said. "In the Navy, you don't board a boat without asking first. Please step aboard." I offered my hand to help the woman down. She smiled as Emily introduced her. "This is my Aunt Carla. Carla, this is Roger, or Stuart, or whatever name he's using today." My heart skipped a beat, and Carla noticed. "Relax, Stuart. No one knows you're here except us," she said with a warm smile, giving me a hug. The next man, taller and showing signs of a disciplined life, was introduced as Emily's Uncle Tom, followed by her father, Ray. Ray greeted me with a friendly smile. "You don't need to call me Dad. My name's Ray. I want to thank you for taking care of my headstrong daughter." "It was my pleasure, sir," I replied, noticing they all had the demeanor of officers. so I naturally treated them with respect. Emily had gone inside and returned with 5 glasses, a bottle of wine, and a bottle of scotch with ice, setting them on the table. "She's helped me much more than I helped her, I'm sure," I said. "Great. Now let's relax. We're not here to grill you," Ray assured me. "We just want to check on the guy who's charmed Emily, not for any bad reason. She says you can do impressive things. I'm curious to hear more about that," Tom added. "Thank you, but I can't really do anything impressive. If trouble comes my way, I can probably handle it pretty well," I replied, making Tom and Ray chuckle. "Please pour yourself a drink and make yourself comfortable." "I guess I need to explain myself," I began, but Carla interrupted. "You don't have to say anything you don't want to. It seems you haven't done anything wrong, just upset some important people. What we really need to figure out is what you want to do next." Emily climbed onto my lap and asked, "Your picture and name are everywhere in the newspapers and on TV. What did you do? Did you get into trouble?" It was more about leaving my job, not causing harm. Some folks weren't happy about it. They probably didn't like how I handled my resignation. "But that person was the president," she exclaimed. "Look, people get upset with their bosses at all levels. He was just someone who didn't treat his workers right. I'm done, so I left," I explained. Ray nodded. "Emily, he's right. The main difference is that he wasn't just another worker. He was part of the team and probably knows a lot of things others wish would stay confidential. People in powerful positions often worry about their public image." "That's exactly how I feel," I said. "I wanted to leave, and I thought the only way was to disappear. I don't want to talk to reporters or write a book. I just want to go somewhere I can live my life quietly." Carla continued, "We understand, but we need to figure out how to get things back to normal. The news cycle has been slow, and they're looking for a new story. A presidential aide disappearing is big news. So far, the wildest rumor is that you were taken by Martians. But there are also stories claiming you were drugged and taken to Moscow, or that various groups are behind your disappearance. One even suggests you were chased out of town over an unrelated dispute." "I like that last one," I said with a grin. Emily laughed. "You don't really? Why don't you just tell them what really happened?" "Emily, in Washington, the truth doesn't always matter. What's important is the story they want to tell. It's easier to go along with the narrative that makes the boss look good. The truth usually complicates things." The 3 adults nodded in agreement. "So, what can you do?" Emily asked. Carla answered, "The best plan is to contact the authorities. Let them know you're safe and traveling for personal reasons." Tom added, "That might help a bit, but not much. Stuart, our job is just to find you, make sure you're okay, and inform them where you are. We can't hold you." "I thought you were a police officer. This sounds like a bigger job." "I'm with the FBI, the intelligence officer for this area," Tom clarified. Emily looked surprised. "Oh, I thought you were a police officer." Carla explained, "That's my fault. I told her to say that because if people knew her uncle was with the FBI, they'd get nervous. We're here today as Emily's family, not on official business." I nodded, my mind racing. "I think I have a better idea. Talking to the FBI directly could complicate things. Carla, you're my lawyer. Could you speak for me? Let them know I'm safe and just traveling. The truth is, I needed a break for personal reasons. That way, you don't have to reveal anything more because of attorney-client privilege, and Tom won't feel pressured." The 3 of them exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. Ray suggested, "Maybe we can take a picture of you both with today's newspaper to prove you're okay." "That's fine, but let's do it away from the boat or anywhere recognizable. I don't want reporters or others tracking me down," I agreed. Ray and Carla nodded. Tom remained silent but looked thoughtful. Emily, restless in my lap, said, "Now that we've settled this, can we talk about what's next?" The others smiled, and I turned to her. "What do you mean by next? You're going to summer school, and I'm sailing down the river to the Gulf. That's the only plan I know about." "Yes, but there's one small change," she said. Ray chimed in. "You have good reason to be worried. Go ahead, Emily. Ask him instead of telling him." "Okay, Daddy. Stuart, I signed up for a summer class, but it's a field project. I need to go down the river to take some measurements because the river changed this spring. I was thinking, if you wanted, I could go with you and help out," she said playfully as she adjusted her position. "You really want to ride down the river with me on this old boat and help with a school project?" No, I want to ride down the river on this lovely yacht, cook for us, do my schoolwork, and spend time with you every morning and night, all summer. I looked at Ray, Tom, and Carla. They were all smiling at my discomfort. I can't believe you said that in front of your dad and uncle. They might not like it. They won't mind. Daddy wants to keep me busy this summer. I think he has a new girlfriend or something. Uncle Tom and Carla want some time away from me to relax on a beach. I can either stay here and miss you, or we can spend the summer together. I also want to help you see that you care for me as much as I care for you. I already said that. She sat up, surprised. When did you say that? The other night while you were sleeping. You did not. She turned to Carla and asked, Is it okay if he tells me while I'm asleep? It depends. Did you fall asleep before he told you or after? After the best time we've shared, Emily admitted. Then it probably counts, Carla said with a smile. If a guy expresses his feelings before being close, he might just want something. But after, it's probably genuine. If he says it afterward, he probably means it. But since you didn't hear it, just ask him again, Carla advised. It's completely fine to ask a guy if he cares for you. I shook my head in disbelief. I can't believe this conversation. I didn't know there were rules about these things. Tom chuckled. Believe it. When I proposed to Carla, I got down on one knee with a ring, and she made me wait for 4 days before she agreed. Carla playfully nudged him. Hey, it was only 3 days, and we spent most of that time together, so it really wasn't long. I just wanted to make sure you were serious. That's how she gives those playful nudges, I said quietly. Tom smiled. Yes, Carla's taught Emily a lot, including those nudges. They were so frequent that I thought the marks would last, so I had my shoulder tattooed to hide them. And if you think that's funny, just wait until you hear how they talk about the difference between being close and being in love. You'll get a kick out of that. I looked at Ray, expecting him to be the concerned father, but he was laughing along with them. Please excuse our family, Ray said. With 3 of us being ex-Navy, and Carla and Tom-in-law and me in history, we don't use a lot of soft words around each other. I'm concerned Emily's picked up some habits that might not be the best. I have not. And please be quiet, Dad. He hasn't said yes yet. So what do you think, Stuart? Can I join you for the summer? I just need to ask your father one thing first, I replied. Ray, if I take her with me, 2 things could happen this summer. I might either decide not to continue our summer plans, or I might consider a deeper commitment if I choose to pursue that. Should I ask for your blessing first? Ray responded with a smile. No need. Just let us know when and where to celebrate with you. I can do that. Emily lightly tapped my shoulder. You haven't even told me you care about me, let alone discuss the future. We're having an important talk here, I said, looking at her. Carla and Emily both laughed. Ray chimed in. Should I ask what it would take for me to let her go? Daddy, stop that. Maybe something simple would be enough, Emily teased. Tom jumped in. Carla and I can each contribute too. Then you'd start with multiple gifts. Carla, can you really leave your family? Emily asked. Not really, Carla replied. But if you can get Stuart to consider a long-term commitment, you can focus only on him and not worry about everything else. Emily turned to me. Stuart, are you considering a commitment? I need to think about it. I want to make sure it feels right. Come on, am I joining you or not? She asked impatiently. Come here, I said. She walked over and I playfully adjusted her position. Carla, is it okay to tease the person you care about before making any commitments? Of course. Tom and I enjoyed lighthearted banter before we made it official, Carla replied. I gave Emily a gentle nudge. Yes, you can join me this summer. Yes, I care about you. And yes, I want to explore our future together. Emily leaped up and playfully sat on my lap. After a moment, I said, It's getting late. How about you help make dinner for everyone? I already have everything ready. Dad, put the grill on. Let's go get my things from the truck. Ray stood up, mentioning they'd be back in a few minutes. After they left, Tom looked at me seriously. Stuart, you seem concerned about something other than the press chasing you. What's on your mind? I can't say for sure, but I feel like there are hidden factors at play that might be more significant than what we can see. When you said I wasn't supposed to be caught but just needed a place, I sensed that some unofficial people might be looking for me for a while. That's why I don't want to be linked to this boat or any other. It's the best way to stay under the radar." "You might be right," Tom said. "Do you have any idea who might be after you?" "It could be one or more of his serious but quiet supporters. I found some documents I wasn't supposed to see, which made me decide to leave." "What did you do with the documents?" "I sent them with my resignation letter. Looking back, I should have just destroyed them and left." "So, he knows you saw them, but doesn't know what you'll do with that information." "Exactly. The people involved want to look good on the outside while controlling things behind the scenes. That's what upset me. One of the companies is based here, and the others are in the Midwest. I don't know which one produced the documents, but they were concerning." "Do you think they could become a threat?" "That's my main worry about taking Emily with me. They might become a threat, but they're currently looking for a man who's trying to escape." "Not a couple enjoying a peaceful trip down the river," I said. "Do you have a safe place to stay for a bit if needed?" "Yes, but I can only hide one of them. The other is secure," I replied. "That's good," Carla said. "Stuart, don't worry too much about Emily. She might seem sweet, but she's strong. Ray and Tom have taught her self-defense and how to handle tough situations. Plus, I imagine you don't have anything with your name on it. Emily has her phone and can call us without raising any concerns if needed. If we need to reach you or send news, that will be the easiest way until they realize she's with you." Tom nodded. "Do you have a way to defend yourself?" "I have a few items stored in a secure space I made in the cabin. I haven't told Emily about those yet." "You should show her how to use them just in case. I hear a lot of things. Most of it's not helpful, but sometimes I get important information. I'll let you know if I find out anything else," Tom offered. "Thanks," I said, then went to set up the grill, connecting the propane. I was about to turn it on when I heard someone calling from the top of the hill near the dock. It was Emily, asking for help carrying things down to the boat. Carla went to the bathroom, so Tom and I walked up to meet Emily, who was standing beside a pile of boxes. "Wow, Emily, did you move out?" I joked. "No, I just brought some extra clothes. These are the things I need for my class." "Where will we put them?" I asked. "Don't worry, love. They can stay in the cockpit until I install them. We can throw away the boxes before we leave. They won't take up much space," she reassured me. We each carried 2 boxes down to the boat, with Ray taking the last 2 after parking his truck. Once everything was on deck, I asked, "What is all this stuff?" "A GPS, radar, sonar, a laptop, a plotter, and some hand tools. Don't worry, I have everything under control." "You have me a bit confused, and that's not even counting the gear." "Just wait and see. After we're married, I'll share more with you," she teased. "You mean there's more?" Carla returned and said, "Of course. We always like to surprise the guys. One day I might run out of surprises for Tom. By the way, Stuart, the inside of the cabin looks amazing. Maybe after you two return, I can convince my husband to borrow it and take me for a nice sail up the river. Come on, Tom, let's help with dinner. I think the sailors need some time together." I offered Ray and Tom a glass of scotch, and they accepted. We sat in the back of the cockpit and spoke quietly. Ray started, "Don't worry too much about Emily and some of the things she says. She's been around us for a long time, and we're pretty open with each other. Focus on what she does instead of what she says." "I think I understand that now," I replied. "My biggest concern is our age difference and not knowing what might happen next." Tom added, "Emily hasn't shown much interest in guys her age. The few she's been with in the last couple of years were older. She likes being around those with more experience. As for facing what's ahead, doing it alone is tough, but having someone by your side, like Carla said, makes it better. Emily's been through a lot with us. We stay fit and keep our skills sharp. She can handle things if you guide her. She just hasn't had the same leadership opportunities we had in the military." "I'll keep that in mind," I said. Ray continued, "About her school, I really want her to finish college. She has a scholarship that covers her classes and books. After that, I'm sure she'll want to go to grad school if she keeps enjoying cartography. But there aren't any nearby schools offering what she needs. She might have to go to the West Coast or Northeast." "I'm fine with that. I think I'd prefer the Northwest, but that's just because I don't know much about the Northeast," I said. Ray then asked softly, "Stuart, I was looking to find you last week when I heard you were missing, so I came back. I'm doing some research on the SEALs for the Navy and discovered some things that seem to be missing about your last mission." Can I ask you a few questions? I looked at him closely for a moment. He seemed serious, and I was at a tough spot. Should I trust the man who might become my father-in-law, or should I keep hiding because of my worries? I felt comfortable around all three of them. The problem wasn't them, it was me, and I knew that. Ray, there's a lot about the mission I don't know. Even after the official review and the tough times we had, there are still things that don't make sense to me. I suppose I can talk to you more about it. The big issue is that the Navy got the report they wanted. 12 of us were treated unfairly, and nothing I say will change that. I guess I'm not ready to make a big fuss. I think Tom and I understand how you feel. We all have tough missions in our past that we wish we could forget, Ray said, nodding in sympathy. I don't want to cause any trouble, but there are people in the Navy who care about the truth. They know that official accounts don't always reflect what really happened. They need to hear the real story, even if it's hard to share. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. What do you want to know? For now, I just need some background, Ray replied. I've talked to a few members of your team, and they all say you know more than anyone else. You were the highest-ranked enlisted person on the team that day, right? Yes. The commanding officer joined us from another team 6 months before the mission. He seemed competent, and we worked well together. You weren't with the team when the action started, were you? No. The CO wanted me positioned on a hilltop nearby with a sniper rifle. I was about 100 yards away from everyone else and about 75 feet higher. Was it a standard issue rifle? Ray asked. Pretty much, yes. It was a powerful weapon with special ammunition and a 5-round magazine. The main addition was a lightweight camera attached under the barrel. It had a wider view than the regular scope and recorded everything at the aiming point. Did it work okay that day? I think it did. I never saw the original video, only the edited version they showed during the debrief. So it was altered? Yes, some parts were out of order and other important details were left out. Do you think the original video would have changed what happened at the meeting? Tears welled up in my eyes, and I felt a comforting hand on my shoulder. All I could manage was, maybe, I'm not sure. Emily's voice gently asked, Is this about the scary memories, sweetie? I nodded. She reassured me. That difficult time is over. I'm here for you. I whispered, The memory is gone, but its impact lingers, and others out there are facing similar challenges. Ray asked quietly, Stuart, do you know what happened to the video after you came out? I don't know for sure. A guy named Baker or Baxter took the whole thing and disappeared. I never saw him again. He wasn't military. I thought he might be a spy. Then 2 weeks later, the edited video appeared on screen. One last question, Stuart. In the file, there are no reports from anyone on the team. Do you know what happened to them? There were none. What? You mean no reports at all? Yes. When we returned to the base, we were instructed to stay quiet and not share any details about the mission, even with each other. I went to my bunk and fell asleep right away. 2 days later, we were flown back to the States, to Bethesda, where we were kept apart for physical and mental checkups. The doctor said I had PTSD and suggested I try not to think about the mission. I didn't see the others until a meeting 2 weeks later. 2 months after that, we all received medical discharges and were warned never to discuss the mission again due to national security. No one ever asked for a report. I lowered my head as Emily's fingers gently massaged my neck. I could hear Ray ask, Tom, what do you think? I believe there's a lot he doesn't understand and some things confuse him, but he hasn't lied to you, Tom replied. That's how I see it too, Ray agreed. Without the tape, we'll never know the full truth. Tom added, Emily, I think this has been tough on Stuart. Why don't you take him for a walk? I'll help Carla with dinner. Emily took my hand and led me to the dock, then up the hill. We walked for about 30 minutes, with her chatting about things she needed to find on our trip down the river. Finally, I stopped and looked at her. Emily, what's going on? I'm confused. It's okay, dear. I'm not sure either. Dad is doing some research and it's tricky for him. There isn't a lot of information out there. He just wanted to see if you could help him find some answers. He usually brings Tom when he talks to veterans because Tom was in combat too. He understands how you feel and is good at reading people. I promise the last thing they want to do is hurt you. They trust you, or they wouldn't have let me come with you. All I care about is being with you. Do you really want to marry me?" I sighed, letting my worries fade. "Emily, all I know is that I never want to lose you. I want to be with you forever. I want to start a family with you. I want to be by your side when we grow old together. I guess that means I want to marry you, right?" "Yes, it seems that way, but can we wait to start a family until I finish school? You will finish school and get your degree, or I'll make you do extra chores for a month. We'll see about that. I still owe you for the help you gave me earlier." "It was just a little help and it wasn't too difficult," I said, feeling the weight of my worries lift. It felt significant because it happened in front of my dad and uncle, making it feel even more real. "You can give me all the tasks you want. Just promise you won't ever leave me." "You can count on that, sailor. You're stuck with me for life. Ready to head back for dinner?" "Yes, let's go. By the way, I really like your family." "That's great, because they like you too. Carla told me in the kitchen that you'd be good for me, and that I could be good for you once I figure things out." "You're already good for me, even if not everything is figured out. I care about you more than I can say." "What you said means everything. I feel the same way. I'm staying with you tonight. They want you to come to their house for dinner before we leave. Is that okay?" "Yes, of course." As we walked back, Tom, by the grill, noticed us returning. I felt better after talking to Emily, letting go of my earlier sadness. Dinner was cheerful, with shish kebabs, vegetables, and rice. Despite my earlier emotions, they didn't seem to think less of me, and I felt more at ease. During the meal, Ray asked, "Can you tell me about Sylvia?" Surprised, I replied, "How do you know Sylvia?" "I went with Tom when he interviewed her the other day. We really connected, and I'm seeing her again this weekend." Emily chimed in, "She's the fourth one, right?" "Yes," I said, and she playfully punched my shoulder. "Tell him he's taken, but I'm still open to meeting someone," she teased. Ray looked at me, puzzled. I explained, "I haven't been very social since returning from service. Emily wanted to know about the women I liked most. I told her about 3 married women I never pursued and 1 single one, Sylvia. We were friends until she made a big mistake at work, challenging her boss's inappropriate behavior. She got transferred before they could fire her. We hadn't spoken in years until last week." Tom added, "Yes, I heard the recordings from your car and the phone call. We met with Sylvia before news of your disappearance spread. She's trustworthy. We've helped each other out before, and I trust her not to reveal anything that could put her in a tough spot," I said. Ray smiled. "She's a great person, fun, smart, and someone I can see myself getting along with. She's 35, never married, and enjoys classical music, good food, hunting, fishing, and sailing. She likes a man who's smart, can hold a good conversation, and treats her with respect," Carla chimed in. "You did it! You finally took that step! Was it good?" "It was better than good. When we were close, it was amazing." "You two are great together," Carla added. "But remember, he's still a guy and needs time to recharge." Ray chuckled. Her mom was just like Carla. It doesn't change much. I whispered to Emily, "It's been over 12 hours since I saw you, and I really want to be close to you now." She chuckled. "I think you always want that. So what? It's just how I feel." We shared a tender moment, enjoying each other's company before drifting off to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I was startled to find myself alone. Hearing noises at the back of the boat, a wave of worry hit me, and I quickly rushed to the cabin door. There was Emily, happily unpacking the boxes we had set aside. I took a moment to calm my racing heart. When she noticed me, she smiled and said, "Why don't you get dressed and bring us some coffee? I want to finish setting this up today. I thought about waking you up playfully, but you looked so peaceful. I decided to let you sleep a little longer." "Do you know how to use all that stuff?" I asked. "I'm not an expert on boats, but I know a bit about these things. Now, how about that coffee?" she replied with a grin. I went back inside, found the coffee ready, and quickly dressed before pouring 2 cups. Returning to the cockpit, I greeted her with a warm smile. "I need to install the radar antenna and GPS receiver up high. Can I make some holes in the roof of the steering station?" she asked. "If we can get some rubber seals to keep out the rain, that should be fine. I'll head to the store later and see if they have any," I said. Thanks, dear. I'll keep the units inside on the desk. Is that okay? Why not put them on the dining table instead? It'll give you more space, and there's a way to run the wires over there too. Wow, you're really smart. And I care about you so much. Do you feel the same way this morning? She asked. I told you last night, I've never met anyone like you. Yes, I love you and I want you with me, I said, feeling my heart swell with affection. She smiled warmly. You really know how to make a girl feel special. Now, can you take the plotter inside for me? I'll bring in the laptop and figure out how to set them up. I carried the plotter inside, setting it down and grabbing my wallet. Hold on, I'm going to the store. I saw something there yesterday that might be just right. At the store, the clerk showed me an equipment mount and rack that could be attached to a wall, shelf, or ceiling. It was just what we needed. I also picked up some rubber seals for the ceiling holes. When I got back, I found Emily making breakfast. Watching her cook, I couldn't resist wrapping my arms around her. I love watching you work. You're so focused but can switch to playful so quickly. I never get tired of looking at you. That's something I've never heard before. Usually people tell me to stop working and relax, which annoys me. But with you, I can focus and enjoy myself. I really like that feeling, she said. Don't change for me. I appreciate you just the way you are, I replied, feeling content. I'm glad you appreciate that. You make me feel good, but if you don't stop, I might mess up breakfast. I don't want to stop, but I will because I'm hungry. After breakfast, I want to spend more time with you. I'm going to hold you to that, she said with a smile. Reluctantly, I let her go and place the rack on the table, figuring out how best to set it up. I decided to mount it against the wall and cabinet, leaving space for the plotter on top and the monitors below, while the rest of the table would be clear for her laptop and other materials. As we ate breakfast, I described the setup. I could see her imagining it, a big smile spreading across her face. You are so smart. This will work really well and still leave room for us to eat or do other things. I love it. How long will it take to put up the rack? She asked. It'll be ready in about an hour, I said. Is it really that long? Well, it only takes 5 minutes to hang the cabinet, but we'll need 45 minutes to organize everything first. She smiled. You and I think alike. We finished breakfast and then moved to the bedroom. This morning, we wanted to enjoy being close, and she was eager to be near me. We joked and played around for nearly an hour before finally letting go of our morning stress and getting back to work. By 3 in the afternoon, we had the rack set up, the equipment installed, and the wires neatly organized and running into the steering station. The GPS and radar devices were mounted on the roof and connected. It was time to power everything up and test it. Emily expertly operated the equipment, turning on each piece and setting the calibration mode by 4 o'clock. She suggested a quick trip to the river to test everything on the water. By 6, we returned, and she was beaming with happiness. Everything worked perfectly. The radar covered up to 12 miles, adjustable down to 5, and the GPS signal matched both the paper chart and the laptop data. The only thing left was setting up the sonar, which I planned to do in the morning. Instead of cooking, we walked to the diner at the marina entrance and enjoyed a simple, pleasant meal. Afterward, we returned to the boat, shared a glass of juice, and headed to bed. The next morning, over coffee, I reviewed the sonar installation guide while Emily took stock of our supplies, bagging up items to donate and making a list of things we needed. Once I finished attaching the sonar transducer, we planned a shopping trip and decided to stay one more day in St. Louis. Emily called Carla to update her, and Carla invited us to dinner that night, as planned. We spent the day shopping, stopped for lunch at a deli Emily liked, and finished up at the grocery store. That evening, we unpacked, put everything away, and I took the boat to the fueling station to fill the tanks and check the fluids. We spent our second-to-last night in St. Louis relaxing, enjoying each other's company, and eventually drifting off to sleep contentedly. The next day, we took our time waking up and getting ready. Every day, I grew more comfortable with Emily and her abilities. I no longer saw her as someone who needed help, but as a capable woman navigating life with grace and strength. Her confidence and independence, shaped by a unique upbringing, made her the perfect partner. Despite a few concerns, I couldn't imagine anyone better to share my life with. That evening, I planned a special dinner at Tom and Carla's house. Emily would leave her car there, and Ray would drive us back to the boat after dinner. Ray was excited and nervous about his trip to Memphis to meet Sylvia, and I reminded him that respect would make a good impression. At 6 o'clock, we arrived at their house and were warmly welcomed. Tom was running late due to work, so Emily gave me a tour, showing me her room next to her father's, who often stayed there during the summer. We opened a bottle of wine and enjoyed our conversation as Carla waited for Tom's message before starting dinner. Carla mentioned she had informed the FBI that I was taking time away to unwind from Washington's pressures, and I promised to keep in touch. The media interest in me was fading, likely due to the president's recent meeting with Congress, which hadn't gone as planned. He had tried to push a bill that wasn't ready, and everything unraveled. I had warned him it wouldn't work, but he hadn't listened, likely influenced by lobbyists pushing their own agendas. Now they were likely very upset over this failed attempt. Tom called at 7, promising to be home in 30 minutes. Carla put dinner in the oven while we poured our second glass of wine. Tom arrived 10 minutes before dinner was ready, apologizing for his delay. After washing up, he joined us for a glass of wine. Sensing the moment, I stood up. "I need to talk to all of you," I said. "Ray and Tom, you're the most important men in Emily's life. May I ask for your blessing to propose?" The room filled with laughter, and the smallest woman teared up. Once everyone calmed down, they gave their blessing. I turned to Emily, got down on one knee, and took her trembling hand. "Emily, I love you and want to build a life together. Will you marry me?" She smiled, her voice wavering as she said yes. I placed my mother's engagement ring on her finger. "You haven't left my side since we met," Emily marveled. I explained, "This ring was my mother's. It's the most precious thing I own, and I want you to have it." Emily knelt beside me, promising to wear it with pride, and we embraced as our family celebrated. Carla then announced dinner was ready. Over dinner, laughter filled the room. Ray joked about a dowry of 6 cows, to which Emily playfully threatened to drop the idea. As the evening wound down, Tom pulled me aside. "I need to tell you something," he began. "I was late because I was talking to a guy at the hospital, Jefferson Martin, the senator's son. He was hurt and mentioned seeing a workboat. Some men are looking for you and know you're on a boat." "Thanks for telling me, Tom," I replied. "This could be serious. Do you have any equipment we can borrow?" "Not right now, but Stuart has some on the boat," Tom said. "I'll show you in the morning. You should have a 2-day head start if you leave in the morning, but they'll probably be searching for you." We hugged Tom and Carla goodbye, and Ray drove us back to the boat, promising to keep us updated. Once aboard, I asked Emily if we could travel down the river at night. She checked the map and determined it was mostly safe, with only one potential obstacle at the 75-mile mark. With that, we prepared to set off, hoping to stay ahead of those searching for us. "I think we should go now. We can stop after the 75-mile mark and wait until morning to be safe," Emily suggested. That was all I needed to hear. Within minutes, the engine was running, and I was pulling in the mooring lines. We turned on the running lights and began our journey earlier than planned. As we entered the river, we saw a barge moving on the west side, and I decided to follow in its wake until we felt more comfortable. Emily made coffee and started monitoring the screens. After an hour, she confirmed that the river ahead was clear. I steered the boat to the middle of the river, picked up speed to pass the barge, and then returned to the west side, slowing down slightly but still staying ahead. With only the moonlight guiding us, I settled into the rhythm of steering, losing radio stations along the way. I put on a CD and enjoyed the music for the next few hours. Emily checked on me every 30 minutes, offering coffee or snacks. Finally, around 2:30 a.m., she agreed to sleep, promising to be on call if needed. At 4 a.m., the river felt different, and remembering the 75-mile mark, I slowed down as a precaution. Emily appeared, rubbing her eyes, asking if everything was okay. "We're near the 70-mile mark," I explained. She checked the GPS and confirmed. "There's a small town with a dock coming up. Do you want to stop, stretch, and maybe grab some breakfast?" she asked. I agreed, and we decided to rest for a few hours before continuing our journey. As the sky began to lighten, we approached the town. I noticed barges lined up along the shore, which made me wonder if there was a problem further down the river. The radio didn't report any issues, so I called Emily up as we neared the dock. We secured the boat, turned off the engine, and started our walk up the hill to the town. It felt good to stretch our legs. We found a cafe for an early breakfast, the aroma of fresh bread and coffee filling the air. While Emily looked at the menu, I asked a local woman about the barges. She explained that they were filled with winter wheat headed to a mill, which had to close for urgent repairs. The barges were stuck waiting, and their presence was driving away customers who thought a big event was happening. We nodded in understanding, hoping the situation would resolve soon, and enjoyed our breakfast before preparing to continue our journey. "What do the locals usually order for breakfast?" I asked. The waitress smiled. "They love big meals, chicken fried steak, eggs, hash browns, gravy, and biscuits. That'll keep you full until dinner." Emily joked, "Unless there's an unexpected incident at lunch." We all laughed, and I said, "If it's good enough for a last meal, it's good enough for me." Emily chimed in, "I'll have the same. You're not leaving me behind, Captain." The waitress grinned. "Let me guess, you two just got engaged?" Emily asked how she knew. "If you were just dating, you'd order something sweet and romantic. If you were married, you'd want space." We laughed as the waitress went to place our order. As we waited, Emily picked up her phone, ready to call Tom. "Don't do that," I cautioned. "They could track your phone since you've been with me after St. Louis. Turn it off and we'll get a prepaid phone after breakfast. I'm not taking any chances." Emily seemed surprised, asking if they could really track her phone. I explained how easily they could, especially if we were in a bigger city like Memphis, where apps might track her location. After breakfast, we bought a prepaid phone with 25 minutes on it. Emily quickly called her dad, who was relieved to hear we were already down the river. The call was short, but we were charged for 3 minutes. Back on the boat, we changed into comfortable clothes and went to bed, both exhausted. I woke up at 10:30 feeling much better and pulled Emily closer. "I was dreaming about you," she said. We shared a quiet moment before getting back to the day's journey. By midday, we were making good time. Emily occasionally asked me to slow down and move to the middle of the river. I assumed she spotted something on the sonar. At 1 o'clock, she brought lunch and a map, pointing out a 5-mile stretch that looked good for anchoring overnight. I agreed, and she estimated we'd reach it by 5 o'clock. I played ** the Pearl Fishers * for the afternoon, and Emily playfully demanded speakers in the next town so she could hear the music too. I turned up the volume just enough for us to enjoy without disturbing anyone nearby. As we cruised slowly down the river, I felt surprisingly content, unhurried, and at peace with the journey ahead. I was with a wonderful woman, finally able to let my mind wander to the future instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the present. The soft music added to that comforting feeling. By 4:30, we rounded a bend in the Mississippi, and I asked, "Are we close?" "Yes, we're just entering the area," Emily replied. She pointed to an island 2 miles ahead, suggesting it as a good spot to stop for the night. I agreed and slowed down as we approached, wondering if the water between the shore and the island would be deep enough. Emily went below deck to monitor the depth, calling out, 10 feet, 9 feet, 7 feet, 7 feet, 9 feet. "That's good," I said, spotting a place to tie up. I turned off the engine, eased the boat toward the shore, and stepped into shallow water to secure the boat. Emily handed me the ropes, and soon we were tied up, the spot looking like a well-used campsite with old campfire remnants around. Back on the boat, Emily brought me a drink and a glass of wine for herself. We settled into the captain's chairs, listening to music and chatting before deciding on chicken and rice pilaf for dinner. As she went below to cook, I sat quietly, reflecting on our journey so far, feeling a deep sense of contentment. But then, I felt a tingle at the back of my neck. A helicopter's soft woof, woof sound grew closer. It was flying low and slow, making me uneasy. I climbed up to get a better view and spotted an Army helicopter, likely searching for something or someone. Thankfully, it continued down the middle of the river without veering toward our island. Emily came out to refill my drink and saw me studying the map. "What are you looking for?" she asked. "I'm trying to see if we can get past Memphis without being seen," I replied, explaining the helicopter and my concern they might be looking for us. We agreed to leave early in the morning, staying close to the riverbank, and hoped to use a barge as cover when passing Memphis. If we need to call your dad, let's wait until we're past the city, I suggested. Helena would be a better spot to meet. Memphis is too exposed. Emily nodded. You're in charge. Are we safe here? As safe as we can be. This island is hidden from above and not accessible from the shore. The only way someone could find us is by boat, and they'd need to know where to look. We decided to keep the blinds closed that night and listen to the Memphis radio station for any news. I then showed Emily a hidden compartment near the hatch, revealing a .30 .30 rifle with a scope, a pump shotgun, and 3 handguns. Do you know how to use these? I asked. Emily examined each one, checking the safety and ensuring they were loaded, showing she was ready for whatever might come next. It was clear Emily was skilled with firearms. I've used all these at the range, she said, but the .45 is too heavy for me. I lose control after the first shot. That's fine, I replied. You take the shotgun and the 9mm. I'll handle the .45 and the .30 .30 rifle. Let's hope we don't need them, but it's better to be prepared. I started loading the rifle and shotgun just in case. Do you really think we'll need them? Emily asked. I hope not, I said, but it's better to be ready. Some situations demand a quiet response, like your Uncle Tom always said. A weapon should end a bad situation, not start one. I have one more weapon stashed away, I added. It's legal, but some of the ammo isn't. Let's not worry about it unless things get really tough. As I was organizing the weapons, the radio news mentioned several calls about a low-flying Army helicopter along the river searching for a missing person. I had a strong feeling they were looking for us. Emily asked, Do you think they might be searching for us? It would be a strange coincidence if they weren't, I replied. I bet they have a general description of our boat by now and are trying to find us before we can slip away. Emily went back to finish making dinner while I secured the weapons, hoping we wouldn't need them. I switched off the lively Cajun music on the radio and put on a CD of romantic opera songs instead. Emily smiled. Trying to impress me tonight? You've got plenty of charm. Dinner was ready in 5 minutes, and we were both ready to relax soon after. We spent the evening discussing our plans and eventually drifted off to sleep to the sound of Nessun Dorma, a fitting end to a busy day. But I woke up early, feeling uneasy. I stepped outside, listening closely, and heard a strange noise coming from the river. I woke Emily gently, asking her to get ready quietly and without lights. I armed myself with the shotgun, gave Emily the 9mm, and headed toward the sound. Moving carefully through the island, I discovered 2 men working by the riverbank, using a chainsaw to cut branches. One was fixing a box to a tree while another set up an antenna. They worked under the glare of 2 bright boat lights. When the chainsaw stopped, I overheard their conversation. "Why are we doing this in the middle of nowhere and in the dark?" one man asked. "We're just following orders," the other replied. "They want to monitor the barges on the river. The last time we set something like this up, it didn't work right because it was connected wrong. Their presence so close to us was unsettling, but for now, it seemed they were unaware of our nearby hideout. Let's finish this and head back for breakfast. We need to be ready to go later today," she said. "Are we doing another job like this?" I asked. "No, this time we're supposed to follow a boat and see where it goes. By the way, is that antenna ready yet?" "Yes, just need to connect the cable to the battery for a test." 10 minutes later, they packed up their tools and left the island. As they pulled away, I noticed the name on their boat. United Logistics Company, a name I recognized from some papers I shouldn't have seen. That made me uneasy. I checked their setup and realized it was a special surveillance system designed to monitor remote areas. The battery would recharge via a solar panel during the day, so it only needed power at night. I headed back to our boat, and as I climbed aboard, I saw a gun aimed at me. "Emily? It's me. Just wanted to show you I was ready." "Is it loaded?" "The magazine's in, but I haven't chambered a round yet. What did you find out?" "They set up a camera on the other side of the island to monitor boats. The images are sent by satellite. I didn't turn it off. That would be too obvious. They probably think we left yesterday morning and aren't this far downriver yet. They'll get a warning when we pass, but it'll just alert them that we're coming." "They mentioned following someone later today," I added. "We should avoid the camera and plan how to get past Memphis. I'm sure that's where they'll start tailing us." Does the laptop have Wi-Fi? Emily asked. Yes, but no signal out here. Let me know if you find one and we can stop to check. You're in charge. No, you are. I'm just the captain, I said with a smile. Now let's get moving while I make coffee. I started the engine, untied the boat, and slowly guided us back into the main river, half a mile downstream from the camera. Once we were safely out of its range, I turned on the running lights. By the time I had a cup of coffee, Emily was by my side. I checked the map and estimated we should find an open Wi-Fi spot about 10 miles ahead, set up for boats along the river. Let me know when you get a signal, I said. We can work together up here. Emily went below to prepare while I turned on the radio, though it was mostly idle chatter. As the sun rose, Emily returned with breakfast and the laptop. She quickly connected to Wi-Fi and found the address for United Logistics in Memphis. The facility was just south of the main bridge with a dock that had 2 boats, one of which matched the description of the boat we saw earlier. Can you send an email to your dad from here? I asked. She hesitated, but then asked, What should I say? Ask him to watch the United Logistics dock around noon and text you if any boats leave. If he wants, he can meet us at a town south of Memphis around 2 o'clock. Keep it vague in case someone reads the message. She nodded and sent the message. 10 minutes later, we lost the signal, and Emily put the laptop away. I took a deep breath, relieved that things were going well so far. I hoped for a few more lucky breaks to reach the safe house by nightfall, where we could finally relax. As I searched for a CD, the radio suddenly announced they needed workboats and towboats to assist with some barges stuck against the levee, about 15 miles south of Memphis. They were gathering boats at noon, which might just give us the cover we needed to slip by unnoticed. If I could join some boats heading south, I might slip under the bridge unnoticed. These kinds of opportunities can really make a difference. I called down to Emily, asking her to monitor the radar for smaller boats heading south as we approached Memphis. She agreed. For the next hour, I noticed more cabins and houses by the river, signaling that we were nearing a populated area. Emily informed me of several boats tied together about 5 miles ahead. I increased our speed to close the distance, then slowed as we approached. Through binoculars, I saw 4 boats tied together, one labeled Pull of the River. I radioed them. Pull of the River, do you copy? Pull of the River here. What's happening? Are you all heading to the barge pull? Yes, we're waiting for one more person, but he won't be here for another half hour. Are you joining us? I'm thinking about it. Just got my boat back from the shop, but I'm not fully loaded yet. Thought I'd help out. Join us! We're cooking ribs and could use some drinks if you have any. I've got a couple of cases, but they're not cold. No problem. Bring them along and you're welcome here. As I approached, I called down to Emily. Honey, we need to... I heard you. I've got the first case out and am bringing the second now. I'll put out the fenders, left side, right? Yes, left side, I confirmed, noting that it would keep us away from any boats that might come looking for us. We tied up next to them, and they happily took the drinks, sharing their boat number with us. Soon after, a fast boat arrived with boxes of warm, delicious food, which we shared with the excited crew. The drinks and food quickly made us new friends, a comforting feeling when traveling the river. Once everyone was ready, the outer boat untied and led the way, with the rest of us following in a neat line toward the bridge. We passed under it shortly after noon. I kept an eye on the United Logistics dock but saw no activity. After 20 minutes without a message from Emily's dad, I told her to turn off the phone. It seemed like no one had come out, or Ray hadn't received our message. We blended in well with the other workboats as we traveled south, now part of a 10-boat group. As we neared our destination, a river patrol boat approached, directing us to split up. 4 boats to one barge, 5 to another. That was our cue to leave. I asked Emily to grab 5 bottles, then slowly moved alongside Pull of the River. Looks like we're not needed after all. Thanks for the hospitality, I said. Thanks for the drinks. Wish we had more. This might take all afternoon. I'm out of drinks, but these might make your trip home more enjoyable, I said, handing over the bottles. Wow, thanks. This will definitely make the ride back better. As we parted ways, I steered toward the western bank, heading for Helena. We'd reach it in less than an hour, where I planned to refuel for the final stretch. I hoped Ray would be there, but if not, we'd leave as soon as the tank was full. I chose Helena because it had several fueling spots, giving us more flexibility. When we arrived, I backed the boat into a spot and turned off the engine. Emily secured the lines, and I asked the worker to fill the tank with diesel. It was nearly 2 p.m. when we walked to the marina store, where we found Ray and Sylvia sitting outside enjoying a soda. Ray smiled and invited us to join them for a drink, but his voice dropped as he added, "We might have someone watching us." I responded casually, "We'd love to. I'm Roger, and this is my fiancée, Emily. What are your names?" "I'm Ray, and this is Sylvia. We're just exploring the area and noticed you at the fuel dock. Are you headed to New Orleans?" "No, just a short river trip. Emily needs to get back home for summer school, so we might head north from here." Ray nodded, and Sylvia asked Emily about her school. After a bit of friendly banter, Sylvia suggested they do some shopping across the street. Emily agreed, joking that she'd take charge once they were married, and they headed off to the store together. Ray and I kept an eye on them, but no one seemed to follow. Ray then asked if he could see our boat, mentioning he was thinking of getting one himself. I agreed, and we headed back to the dock, picking up a case of drinks on the way. I noticed a young guy on a motorcycle watching us closely, but we continued to the boat. Once on board, we talked more freely. Ray mentioned they had been watching the United Logistics dock but hadn't seen anything suspicious. He also noticed the young man on the motorcycle tailing them since they crossed the bridge into Helena. Ray joked about how it felt like a Galaxy-class experience, but hinted there might be a future with Sylvia as she planned to visit Colombia soon. Ray also shared that Tom had discovered 2 teams of people actively searching for us. One team had hurt Jefferson, and the other had visited Marquette. They seemed to be working with someone in Washington. I told Ray about the surveillance system I saw on the island, and he agreed we should be cautious. As we left the boat and walked past the watcher, Ray asked loudly about the boat's fuel capacity, and I downplayed it, mentioning that we were burning more fuel than expected and had to stop frequently. Back at the marina store, Emily and Sylvia emerged with shopping bags, smiling and chatting. After paying for the fuel, Ray whispered to me, "You should get going. We'll stick around to see if anyone follows you." I nodded and mentioned that if someone was following, it might be one of the 2 boats from United Logistics. We shook hands, and Sylvia leaned in, whispering, "She's just what you need. If I couldn't be with you, I'd pick her for you." I thanked her and asked her to look after Ray. Emily gave Ray a gentle hug, and after a few quiet words, we headed back to the boat. Once on the river, I increased our speed, eager to put some distance between us and any potential followers. I had been careful to conserve fuel since we were close to our limit, just enough to cover the distance from St. Louis to Memphis. Our next stop was less than half that distance, and I wanted to reach it before any boats from Memphis could catch up. I filled Emily in on what her dad had shared with me. She mentioned that her dad had only told Sylvia a few basic things, which she appreciated, as it kept her from knowing too much if questioned. They had spent the time getting to know each other and had gotten along very well, as I had expected. Emily mentioned she would be visiting Colombia next week, unsure if they'd even go out much during the visit. I teased her to be more optimistic about her dad. We continued at high speed for another hour, then slowed down. If a boat left Memphis when we arrived in Helena, it would have to move much faster than the United boats to catch us before dark. In about an hour, we would reach the turnoff, and once off the river, I didn't think anyone could follow us. The route led through a maze of bayous and swamps known only to locals, a path I knew thanks to a special map with GPS points shared by the brother of one of my SEAL teammates. He had given it to me at his brother's funeral, mentioning that it was a family hideaway deep in the swamp. As we neared the turnoff, I called Emily to let her know we'd be leaving the river soon. I instructed her to turn off the GPS and mapping software, but to keep the sonar on. It might be useful. She followed my instructions without question, and I felt my affection for her deepen with every moment. I slowed as we approached the spot on the map, using a small device where I had saved the locations. The entrance appeared as a thick wall of hanging vines, but I could see water behind it, so I carefully pushed through. Behind the vines was a hidden channel, darker than the river, with visibility limited to about 100 feet. The water was deep enough, but there were hidden dangers, walls of vines, tree stumps, and narrow turns. The first turn came about half a mile in, and I realized that if the boat were any longer, it might not have made it. The next few turns were easier, followed by a long, straight stretch leading to one final difficult turn. The GPS indicated the turn, but all I saw was thick brush. As I brought the boat closer, the brush swung away, revealing a steel gate that worked like a spring. It made a noise as we entered a small lagoon with a dock on the other side. I maneuvered the boat into a tight turn and docked on the right side. Once tied up, I saw that the exit was another gate, this one opening outward. If you didn't know, you'd never guess there were boats hidden just 20 feet away. I helped Emily out, and we walked down a wooden path toward a raised house about 50 feet away, perched 12 feet above the ground. Inside, it was a simple, clean cabin with a kitchen, dining area, living room, and a bedroom, a perfect getaway. On the way back, I noticed an envelope taped to the back of the door with my name on it. The note inside read, "I noticed you are missing. I think you might be coming here if you get this. You already know one secret that can help keep you safe. The others are that this island was used for smuggling during Prohibition. The gated lagoon kept the boats hidden. To the left of the living room, there's a small bridge that can be pulled back. The water between here and the road is deep and often has alligators, so no one would be smart to try swimming across. The road ends here, but you can walk about a mile to a small village for supplies. No one will ask you questions about who you are or where you come from." It was clear we were in a safe and well-hidden place, at least for the time being. "They'll treat you well if you arrive this way," the note read. "There's Wi-Fi at the cafe if you need it, and the cafe has a satellite dish for TV. Other than that, feel free to stay as long as you like." Emily read the note with me and said, "Wow, what a great place. Do you want to visit the village tonight?" "Let's wait until morning," I replied. "I think we've had enough excitement for today. Let's eat on the boat and avoid making a mess in the kitchen here. We can relax and watch some TV afterward." "That sounds perfect," she agreed. As we headed back to the boat, I heard a helicopter overhead. It was moving fast and high, but all I could see were trees. I hoped that's all they could see too, unless they had specialized equipment. Once on the boat, I checked the map on Emily's laptop. I was relieved to see that we had two options. We could either retrace our path back to the big river or head west through more swamps to reach the Red River. This second route would allow us to avoid the busy spots on the Mississippi and the increasingly heavy traffic as we moved south. It also provided a more concealed path via the Intracoastal Waterway, which gave me peace of mind. We cooked dinner on the boat and ate in silence. Eventually, Emily admitted that while the surroundings were fascinating, they were also a bit intimidating. She asked if we could sleep on the boat instead of in the house, and I agreed. After dinner, we returned to the house, turned on a light in the kitchen, and relaxed on the couch. We found a comedy on the TV, hoping for some light-hearted distraction. It wasn't the funniest movie, but it brought us some much-needed laughs. Later, we walked back to the boat with a lantern, secured it for the night, and settled in. In the middle of the night, I heard small noises on the boat, which I assumed were raccoons or other animals. Since we hadn't left any food out, I figured they'd leave disappointed. However, in the morning, I discovered they had chewed through the radar cable, rendering it unusable. Emily laughed when I told her and mentioned she had a spare cable, something she'd been advised to keep on hand when she bought the equipment. I learned then that she had purchased everything herself through the college, using a discount to offset the expense. We decided to walk into town for breakfast, and Emily took her phone to check for messages. The walk was a pleasant 20-minute stroll through the woods. At the cafe, after ordering, Emily logged into her phone and suddenly gasped. She held the phone up for me to see. *urgent. Call Tom ASAP. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, so Tom was likely at his office. I took the phone and dialed his number. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey, Tom, I just got your message." He sounded serious. "Do you know a guy named Charlie Carson?" "Yes, he was one of my SEAL teammates. Why?" "He's the chief of security for United Logistics and is in charge of finding you. We've got a team causing trouble, claiming he gave the orders. Once Charlie learned you were on a boat going downriver, he figured out where you might be. Does that mean anything to you?" "Yes," I replied. "Another teammate's brother gave me directions to a hideout in the swamp. He shared the same info with Charlie and someone else, but they only have directions for overland access. I have the boat route. I've got a team heading to deal with him this morning, but I'm not sure if he's already sent people after you. If possible, move to a safer location. I will. I'll reach out later for an update. Take care, I said, and hung up. Our breakfast arrived just as I handed the phone back to Emily. I told her to eat quickly because we needed to leave soon. We finished our meal in a hurry, left $20 on the table, and headed back. As we walked briskly, I filled Emily in on what I had learned. Back at the boat, I took out the rifle and handed Emily the shotgun and pistol. I instructed her to stay on the boat and wait. If she heard any loud noises, she was to start the engine and be ready to move. If anyone tried to get through the gates, she had to be prepared to act. I promised I would come running if I heard anything. Then, I went to the back of the boat, opened a hidden hatch, and retrieved a larger firearm along with some special ammunition. It was time to prepare for whatever might come next. I hopped off the boat and made my way back toward the house, sticking close to the ground and taking cover behind a rock wall. I knew that if a group had left at 6, they'd be arriving any minute. My plan was to wait for about 30 minutes, but after only 5, I heard the sound of a loud engine and tires crunching on the gravel road. A big truck pulled up and 4 men jumped out. The leader called out my name, demanding I come out, promising no one would get hurt. He started counting to 10, then nodded to his men, who immediately opened fire on the house. Anger surged through me. I knew the leader had to be stopped. I grabbed my rifle, took aim, and shot him in the leg. The others were so caught up in their own gunfire that they didn't notice anything was wrong until he fell, shouting in pain. I quickly disabled their truck by shooting the engine and cabin, then ran back to the boat, where Emily was waiting with the engine running. I jumped aboard and told Emily to drive out slowly, then turn right and speed up. I had a hunch there might be another boat waiting for us. Just as she turned, we heard shots from the left. At 500 yards apart, I wasn't too worried. They'd have a hard time hitting us. When their boat turned toward us, I had a clear shot and quickly disabled it, damaging the back end severely. Setting down my gun, I checked on Emily. She was shaken, tears in her eyes as she hugged me tightly. "I was so scared you were hurt. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I reassured her. They never even knew where I was. What were those loud bangs I heard? "That was the illegal ammunition I mentioned," I said, smiling. "Don't tell Tom about it." She laughed weakly. "How could I explain something I don't even understand?" "I love you too, Emily," I said. "Hopefully that's the last of the trouble, but let's stay cautious. Can you bring the laptop up here? We need to check our route through these channels." Emily went below, but soon shouted, "Oh no! The laptop's damaged!" I realized that firing from 500 yards meant those bullets could hit anything. At least we weren't hurt. The paper map wasn't as detailed, but it gave us enough to navigate. We followed the main channels, which were surprisingly well marked, as if guiding larger boats toward the Red River. As we navigated the winding waterways, I heard helicopters and sirens echoing through the trees and swamps. When we finally reached the Red River, I headed south. We traveled 5 miles to the nearest town and docked at a public boat ramp. It was well past lunch, and we were finally relaxed enough to think about food. We found a cafe still serving meals and ordered lunch. I asked Emily to call Tom, jokingly referring to him as her favorite uncle. When she handed me the phone, Tom sounded serious on the other end. "We have a blown-up truck, 3 scared men, 1 with a badly injured knee, and a damaged boat with 2 guys trying to swim away from alligators. And that house is full of holes. Can you tell me what really happened?" I filled him in on the situation, explaining how I had anticipated trouble and decided to confront it head-on. I described the events, how the men arrived, opened fire on the house, and how I had taken down their leader and disabled their truck. "How many shots did you fire?" Tom asked. "Just 1 for the leader, but I made sure to disable their truck with a few more." "And the boat?" Tom inquired. "I figured the guys in front were no longer a threat, so I went back to the boat," I said, leaving out the specifics about the ammunition. Tom sighed. "Just be careful. We'll handle things on our end." After finishing the call, I handed the phone back to Emily and told her we needed to leave quickly. We ate our meal in silence, paid, and hurried back to the boat. Once on board, I took out the rifle, handed Emily the shotgun and pistol, and told her to stay alert. I then retrieved a larger firearm from a hidden compartment, preparing for whatever might come next. With the engine running, I told Emily to pull away and turn right. As soon as we got past the gate, someone started firing at us. It really upset me because they were aiming dangerously close to Emily. I took careful aim and hit their engine, or maybe the back of their boat. It took a significant hit either way. "How many shots did you take?" Emily asked. "Just one," I replied. But since it was a long shot, I was ready to fire again if needed. Emily leaned over and shouted into the phone. "That guy ruined my new laptop!" Tom responded, "Really? Must have been a lot of shots fired." "Yeah," I said, "but I only fired once. I don't like to waste ammunition, never have, even when it was plentiful." "Good to hear. I'll need a formal statement from you, though." "I don't know what else to say," I replied. "I've never seen these people before, don't know who they work for or why they were after me. It really angers me that they targeted Emily, too. I just want to relax by the river with my fiancé, but they're making it tough." Tom laughed. "You know, Stuart, I've recorded this whole conversation. Carla's going to find it amusing. She's our office's legal advisor, and she'll handle the official report. Charlie Carson is talking to some important people today, so we might learn more soon. Are you coming back to St. Louis now?" Emily, listening in, replied, "Not until he takes me to the ocean. We're heading to the Gulf for a few days." "That's perfect," Tom said. "We're planning to go to Galveston. Ray's heading there next week, so I'll have him call you with the details. Keep in touch in case I need more information." "We will," I said, wrapping up the call just as our lunch arrived. "So we're heading to the Gulf?" I asked Emily. "Yep, that's the closest ocean. Maybe we can visit a different beach later, but the Gulf will do for now. I need to get a new computer and maybe some maps." We did some shopping, finding an updated river map and some supplies for the cabin. Emily stumbled upon a $10 flat-screen TV at a thrift store, which she thought might work as a monitor. Back on the boat, I started the engine while Emily set up the TV. Soon, we were cruising past small towns and farms in central Louisiana. The northern part of the state looked different from the south, which was mostly marshes and swamps. If a big flood or hurricane hit, much of the state could be underwater. Emily eventually got the TV working as a monitor, though the picture wasn't perfect. It was good enough for now, and the important thing was that the data she had collected was safe. She also fixed the radar cable and just needed to connect it to the radome. 5 days later, we turned off the Gulf and into Galveston Bay. We both had nice tans. Emily's was the deepest since she loved lying on the deck in the morning and late afternoon. During the hottest part of the day, we stayed in the shade. We shared special moments together on the deck, at the beach, and even in the warm Gulf waters. My feelings for her grew stronger, and it was clear she felt the same way. Still, we managed to go a full day on our trip without any special moments. The docks on Galveston Island were pricey, but worth it to be close to the strand and the restaurant area. The beach on the Gulf side was over a mile away, so taking a taxi or a ride was easier. For the quieter beaches on the west end, we needed a rental car. Luckily, Ray and Sylvia were in town and had a car. We met them at a bar and a restaurant 2 hours after docking, having showered and changed into casual clothes for the evening. Emily wore a nice skirt and shoes with a short top, while I donned my only pair of pants and a sports shirt. When we arrived, Ray stood up and joked, "What did you do with my daughter? You must have picked up this island girl somewhere." I playfully nudged him, and he laughed. "Oh, you just dressed her up to confuse me." Sylvia hugged us both warmly, and for the next hour, we caught up over drinks. We shared stories about our journey down the Red River and through the intercoastal waterway until we reached Beaumont, where we took a boat out to Galveston. Eventually, Ray urged Sylvia to share her news. Sylvia hesitated, looking a bit shy. "Come on, Sylvia," I encouraged her. "I can't think of anything that would make you blush this much." Taking a deep breath, she said, "I've made a decision. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and Ray nudged me to finally do it. I've quit my job and I'm going back to school to work on my doctorate." "That's amazing. I couldn't be happier for you," I replied. Emily, with a playful smile, asked, "You didn't say where you're going or what you'll be studying." Sylvia blushed even more. "Well, I found a university with a program I really like. The people there are wonderful, and the faculty were enthusiastic about my research project." "That's fantastic, Sylvia. But where are you going to school? And who is your advisor?" Emily pressed. Sylvia glanced at Ray, who was smiling, and quickly said, "I'm going to Mizzou in Columbia, and your dad is my advisor." Emily grinned. If you give me any more trouble, I'll have to teach you a lesson. But you'll need to ask Stuart for that. He says he has control over me now. We'll discuss that later, I joked. You can change any room in the house except mine. Emily, teasing, added, What makes you think, Sylvia? I can see it in your eyes and on my dad's happy face that you won't be staying in a dorm or an apartment. I'd be glad to have you as my stepmother, as long as you accept Stuart and me as your daughter and son-in-law. Sylvia turned bright red, looking to Ray for help. He simply said, I told you that taking it slow wouldn't work. Everything's out in the open now. You did well. I added, Sylvia, you'll always be my friend. I promise to keep an eye on your stepdaughter like you would. Emily chimed in, My stepmother and I are going to be best friends and make your lives interesting. Who knows, maybe we'll have kids around the same time. Sylvia finally relaxed and said, This is all new for me, family, kids, everything. Please be patient with me. I'm used to being around strong men, but a young woman like you makes me a bit nervous. Emily smiled. Okay, I'll be calm around you until you feel more at ease. Carla will help with that too. Ray added, Focus on what she does, not what she says. That's a good way to understand things. Sylvia, laughing, replied, Stop it. I can make my own friends. I grinned. I think trouble is coming. Invite your friends. Everyone laughed, enjoying the light-hearted teasing. Ray then took us to a seafood restaurant they had discovered, and we had a wonderful dinner on a terrace overlooking the Gulf. As we shared more stories, we learned about Sylvia's background, how she didn't have any siblings, worked hard to pay for college, and climbed the ranks in government. She hadn't dated much, despite the interest of many confident men at work. After earning her master's in public policy at Georgetown, she moved to Nashville, where she fell in love with country music, though she still enjoyed classical music. When she met Ray, she felt young and excited again. He was steady and mature, everything she thought she wasn't. Their relationship quickly deepened, leading to plans for a future together. Sylvia fell in love with the Mizzou campus during a faculty party, and the faculty were excited about having someone with her 15 years of government experience in their doctoral program. Ray mentioned he needed to visit someone at NASA the next day and invited us to join him to see the waterfront in Kemah. We agreed it was a great idea and planned to meet at their hotel at 8 in the morning for breakfast. Afterward, we returned to the harbor area, and they showed us their hotel, conveniently located near our boat. After saying goodnight, Emily and I enjoyed a quiet moment together, listening to the distant music from a nearby club. The next day brought new discoveries. We dropped Ray off at the NASA building and spent the morning exploring the nearby museum, captivated by the early days of space exploration. Later, we drove over the Kemah Bridge, admiring the sailboats moving between Clear Lake and Galveston Bay. Below the bridge, the village of Kemah buzzed with restaurants and shops along the waterfront. We decided to have lunch on a deck overlooking the water, watching boats pass just a few feet away. After lunch, the girls went shopping, and I tagged along until Ray called. I told the girls I'd pick him up and then meet them at a nearby restaurant. I took the same route back and picked up Ray 20 minutes later. He looked pleased. You seem like you had a great day, Ray, I said. I did. It was a very good one, he replied. Let's find a place to chat before we meet the girls. I need to talk to you about something. We returned to Kemah and went to the bar at the restaurant where we were set to meet in an hour. After ordering drinks and a shrimp cocktail, Ray got straight to the point. Stuart, I'm going to ask you to do something you might not want to do. Oh? What is it? I asked. I found some information about your last mission. I want to share it with a naval group, but it would be much more meaningful if you shared your story too. I know it's hard to talk about, but this could be very important. Would you consider it? I hesitated. Ray, I don't really know what you found or why it would matter what I say. But if you think it's important, I suppose I can. It's going to be really tough for me to talk about that day, though. I understand, Ray said. No one will make you feel uncomfortable. Your story is important. I'll set everything up and we'll see how it goes. Just then, the girls arrived. Emily playfully greeted me and dropped a bag in my lap. This is for you, my captain, she said. Inside, I found a large pirate hat and vest. Ray asked, What's that for? Emily grinned. He keeps pretending to be a pirate and capturing me. Ray chuckled. Some things a dad doesn't need to know. Sylvia handed Ray a bag with a detective hat, curved pipe, and a large magnifying glass. We all laughed as Ray put on the hat and joked around, even using the magnifying glass to inspect his food. We had a pleasant dinner in Kima, watching the boats return as the sails glowed in the evening light. The drive back to Galveston was calm as we all reflected on our fun day. Ray and Sylvia were flying back to St. Louis the next morning. Sylvia had taken some time off work to prepare for her move to Columbia. Emily and I planned to spend one more day exploring the Strand before heading back to St. Louis. The next day was filled with shopping and laughter as we carried our finds back to the boat. At dinner, Emily became more serious. "Stuart, what are you thinking about doing when we get back?" she asked. "I'm still deciding," I said. "The first thing is to find us a place to live. After that, I'll figure out my next steps. Some of it might depend on what Tom discovers. There could still be some unresolved issues." "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I just want you to feel better," she said. "You should do what makes you happy." "I'll be happiest when we get married," I replied. "Then let's plan to do that before school starts in the fall," she said. The next morning, I carefully steered the boat out of the slip and set off for the Intracoastal Waterway. We chose this route instead of going offshore due to an approaching storm. We reached Lake Charles before the weather hit and stayed at the marina to wait out the storm. It was Emily's 21st birthday, so we celebrated by taking her to her first casino. We enjoyed food, drinks, and games before retiring to a hotel for the night. Emily won $1,000 and felt lucky, but I reminded her that wise players know when to stop. She smiled, agreed, and we went to sleep. 10 days later, we returned to the same marina in St. Louis where our journey had started. This time, I rented a slip for a longer stay. Although I wasn't sure how much we'd use the boat during the school year, we still had the rest of the summer and plenty of river to explore north of St. Louis. We had let Tom and Carla know when we'd be back, and they were waiting for us with a surprise. They had retrieved my new truck from a storage place in Tennessee. Carla, my lawyer, had taken care of everything. I decided to drive down to see Marquette and give him the truck. After unloading our things, we headed to Tom and Carla's house, where we'd be staying until we got settled. Ray and Sylvia were there, with Sylvia showing Ray how to grill. Somehow Ray had never learned, though he did manage the potatoes, salad, and baked beans. After dinner, Ray asked if I could help him next week by driving down to Nashville to bring back some of Sylvia's things. They planned to use Tom's truck and rent a trailer, hoping to make the move in one trip with 2 trucks. I agreed, but mentioned I needed to stop in Mississippi to take care of the other truck. Timing worked out perfectly. They would have everything ready when we arrived, and we'd load up and head out. Then Sylvia handed me a gift. She had found a job opening at the National Park Service in Missouri for someone to manage the state's staff. Since I was still technically employed by the government, she had put my name in for the position and arranged an interview for me in 2 weeks. I was hesitant until I learned more about the role, but Sylvia assured me I was a perfect fit. Tom, Ray, and Carla all seemed pleased. As we relaxed with coffee, Ray casually mentioned, "Stuart, I'd like you to join me for a meeting on Friday here in St. Louis. I think you'll find it interesting." I sensed something important was coming, but wasn't sure what. The quiet in the room made me feel like everyone was waiting for my response. "Sure," I said. "I don't have any plans except to keep your daughter happy. By the way, we want to get married before school starts. Does anyone have a date in mind?" Carla quickly suggested, "August 10th. "Why that date?" I asked. "It's Tom and my anniversary, and it's also the day Ray and Sylvia are getting married. If you two choose that day, no one will forget our anniversary. You can have one wedding together or separate ceremonies with a shared celebration afterward." It all made perfect sense to me. I turned to Emily. "Is the 10th a good day for you?" "It will be the best day of my life," she replied, making everyone happy. The next evening, Tom had tickets to the Cardinals game, so the 3 of us guys went while the women had their own plans. We enjoyed refreshments and snacks at the game, and when we returned, we were glad just to be with our ladies. The next morning, Friday, I dressed in slacks and a nice shirt, and Emily and I rode with Ray to a government office building downtown. I felt nervous as we passed through security, expecting something to happen, but nothing did. Ray led us into a courtroom with a sign stating nothing was scheduled for that day. Just before we entered, Ray pulled me aside. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. Just share your story and don't stress about what happens next. You're safe." Emily held my hand tightly, and I realized she had been preparing me for this moment. When I entered the room, I saw 5 of my old teammates sitting together, waving and smiling. I was guided to a table at the front, with Emily beside me. Moments later, Tom, Carla, and Sylvia joined us, sitting behind us. I started to feel anxious, but then everything changed. 4 high-ranking Navy officers entered in formal uniforms, accompanied by 4 other naval officers. It was the most important group I'd seen since the Army-Navy football game last year. The leader among them quickly began to speak, addressing me directly. "Welcome, Michaels." "Yes, sir," I replied, caught off guard. The Admiral nodded, weighing the implications of what I had said. "Thank you for your honesty. It could be vital for our review. Let's proceed." Another officer interjected, "Hold on. Could there be any other reason for this lack of a debriefing?" I paused, carefully considering my response. "It's difficult to say. Perhaps there were higher priorities at the time," I suggested. The Admiral pressed on. "We need to ensure all angles are covered. We cannot overlook anything that might impact our understanding of the situation." The tension in the room was palpable as everyone weighed the significance of the discussion. As the meeting progressed, they delved into various facets of the case, highlighting unresolved issues. The exchange of ideas was critical as they reassessed the information on record. The serious atmosphere reflected the gravity of the topics, and everyone knew the importance of discretion. They were committed to thoroughly examining the facts to uncover the truth. Before I could respond, Captain Myers turned to my team and asked, "Gentlemen, can you confirm what Mr. Michaels just said?" Everyone nodded, and one of them added, "I even asked about it and was told to stay quiet and not worry." Captain Myers turned back to the Admiral, saying, "I understand that everything Mr. Michaels shares is his personal account. The other team members saw things differently, and they'll explain shortly. They haven't spoken to each other in a while, but I asked them to come today to share their perspectives. As you can see, they all agree there was no debriefing. The records also show that none of them spoke at the official hearing." The Admiral frowned. "You have my full attention now. Please continue." "Thank you. Let's start from the beginning. Mr. Michaels, before the mission, did you participate in any of the early meetings?" "No, sir. The commanding officer attended those meetings and then briefed us on the plan and mission details." "What did he say, and how did you feel about it?" "He described it as a simple rescue mission at a mountain location occupied by the Taliban. He expected about 10 to 12 fighters and anticipated minimal resistance. I felt anxious because the Taliban aren't known for showing little resistance." Myers looked at the others, who nodded in agreement. He turned back to me. "Did the mission go as planned?" "No, it didn't. I have a map of the area. Can I show you what happened?" "Please do." "In our briefings, we were told we'd be dropped here about 4 miles from the compound. We were supposed to hike along this path and get into position here and here before starting the operation. As the sniper, I was supposed to be on this hill, overlooking the compound. But whether by mistake or design, we were dropped here, less than a mile from the compound and right up the hill from the gates. The commanding officer sent me to this hill on the other side to take my position. The rest of the team started moving up the hill when the shooting began, and they found cover along this line. Myers checked with the others, and they all agreed with my account." "Do you know who started the shooting?" he asked. I hadn't reached the top of the hill yet, but from the sound of the guns, it was the Taliban using their AK-47s. What happened next? When I got into position, I saw several Taliban firing down at us, and our team was returning fire as they found targets. I looked through my scope and realized there were far more than 10 or 12 fighters. "Can I ask for a clarification? Your weapon that day was a standard .50 caliber sniper rifle?" "Yes, that was our regular weapon, but we were testing a new video scope. It recorded everything we saw. I had never used one before, but someone brought it along for testing. All I had to do was turn off the safety and the scope would record." "Thank you. We'll return to that later. Please continue." The tension in the room thickened as I spoke again. The gate opened, and a man walked out waving a white flag. I heard the commanding officer shout for everyone to stop firing, and the shooting ceased. The officer watched as the man pulled on a rope, revealing 10 individuals tied together with devices. I paused, tears streaming down my face. The room was silent until I found my voice again. I spotted movement on the second-floor balcony. A man was standing there, watching, looking pleased with himself. He was hiding behind the balcony wall, observing everything below. I aimed my sight at him, knowing deep down what he was going to do. He glanced up at me with a mocking smile and lifted his phone to his face. I hoped he would reconsider, but I knew he wouldn't. He pressed the button and I heard a loud sound. I pulled the trigger, and everything went dark. Tears streamed down my face as I sat in silence, feeling the weight of the moment. Someone gently placed their hands on my shoulders and pressed a bottle of water to my lips. It felt like minutes passed before anyone spoke again. Finally, Captain Myers broke the silence. "What did you do after that?" he asked. Honestly, after that, everything became a blur. I heard the chaos below, but I just made my way back down the hill. I wasn't looking out for anyone. I just climbed down, feeling terrible for not preventing what had happened. "Why didn't you?" Myers pressed. My voice rose with emotion. "I was told to stop firing. I should have ignored that order, but I followed it." "It's okay, Stuart," Myers reassured me. "Please, tell us what happened next." When I got back down the hill, the fighting had stopped. Our team had taken out all the adversaries. There were about 30 or 40 of them. But I wasn't focused on that. I put my weapon down, grabbed a shovel, and started digging a hole. I began gathering what I could find and placed them in the hole. They deserved more respect than to be left scattered in that awful place. Some of the other guys joined in to help. I'm not sure how long we worked, but we eventually finished and covered the hole. One of the guys asked if we should call for a pickup. I said yes, and quietly added, "Maybe call in some air support to erase this place." About 30 minutes later, the helicopters arrived to take us away. As we boarded, 4 fighter planes came in and turned the top of the mountain into dust. Then we flew back to Camp Stuart. Captain Myers asked, "I have 2 last questions for you. You mentioned putting your rifle down, but you didn't talk about using it again. Did you use it or take it with you?" "No, I fired that 1 shot, and after that I don't remember much until I got on the helicopter. Someone handed the rifle to me then, but that's all I know." "What happened to the video scope and the recording?" "I'm not sure. A man named Baxter or Baker took it off the rifle and I never saw it again. Parts of the tape were shown at the hearing 2 weeks later." "It's okay, Stuart. I hope that sharing your story helps you feel better. Your team didn't see what you saw, but they agree with the parts they witnessed. As a sailor, I want you to know you're not to blame for what happened. You followed orders. The other side is responsible for their actions." "Thank you," I said quietly. "But I still wish I had acted sooner. Maybe one of those people could have been saved. There are moments in my career when I wish I had gone against orders, too. You're a strong man, Stuart. You'll get through this." "Thank you, sir. Sorry for my outburst." "Don't apologize. I think we all understand what you're feeling," the Admiral said. "Let's take a 10-minute break." Suddenly, I was surrounded by Emily, Sylvia, and my teammates. They told me they never knew that part of the story. My mind was swirling with thoughts until I heard the Admiral call everyone back to order. "Mr. Michaels, we thank you for your report and recognize how difficult this must have been for you," the Admiral said. "As Captain Myers mentioned, don't feel bad for doing your job and following orders. None of us can predict the future, but we can all share in the sadness of the past. Captain Myers, do you have more to add?" "Yes, sir, we do. Mr. Michaels' report is one perspective, but it hasn't been confirmed by anyone else. I'll now let Dr. Larson share more details." Dr. Larson spoke up. "As Captain Myers mentioned, without corroborating evidence, we only have one person's account, which might not be enough to change the official record. The key is the tape and what happened to it. I discovered that a former CIA agent named Sam Baxter was involved. At the time, he was working with the Department of State in Afghanistan. The day after the mission, he flew to Kabul and secured the video at a military lab there. According to protocol, 2 copies were made on DVDs. However, the technician confirmed that Baxter also requested a copy on a flash drive. I have a statement confirming this in the documents you have. Dr. Larson continued. I haven't been able to find the original DVDs in the State Department files I can access. Baxter passed away 2 years ago, but I visited his wife, who kindly let me look through his personal belongings. During my visit, I found a flash drive labeled Afghan Videos. After reviewing it, I believe it contains the missing footage. NASA reviewed it 2 weeks ago and confirmed it appears to be complete and unedited. With your permission, I'd like to show it. It's about 10 minutes long. Go ahead, let's see it, the Admiral responded. The room darkened as the projector displayed the video. From the first scene, I felt like I was back on that hill, watching as the gate opened and people came out. The camera shifted, and I recognized those familiar, cold eyes. They were smiling, with a gaze that sent chills down my spine. "You horrible person!" I shouted. But Emily quickly pulled me back, holding me close. I knew something terrible was about to unfold, so I buried my face in her shoulder. I could hear the others in the room gasp as they saw what I had seen. On the screen, someone held up a phone and pressed a button. The room fell silent, and Emily gasped at the sudden quiet. Ray spoke up. I want to pause here because what you've seen so far matches exactly with Stuart's account. He provided very clear details, but the rest of the video wasn't recorded by Stuart as he claimed. I'm not sure where it came from. A voice from my team broke the silence. I know, sir. As Stuart mentioned, we were burying the girls and he had left his rifle leaning against a tree. When we finished and started walking back, I picked up his rifle to return it to him. When we reached the helicopters, I saw something approaching and instinctively turned off the safety to look through the scope. It was the F-18 jets. Afterward, I handed the rifle back to Stuart. Ray reassured him. You didn't cause any problems, Pete. You just told us what we were about to see. He resumed the video, and we watched as the scope scanned the sky, locking onto the incoming jets. The jets dropped 2 bombs each, obliterating the compound in a cloud of dust and debris. Then the video paused. Ray added, I've confirmed that the bombs completely destroyed the compound, including an underground area we hadn't known about. No one has attempted to rebuild there since. The Admiral then asked, Mr. Michaels, can you tell us where you buried the remains of the girls? I hesitated. I'm sorry, Admiral. I wasn't really paying attention. I just dug a hole where I was. Pete stepped forward, pointing to a spot on the map outside the building at the base of a hill. The dirt there was soft. Everywhere else was just rock. It was about 6 feet deep and 4 feet wide. It didn't need to be bigger because there wasn't much left. I know it wasn't much, but I said a prayer for them. The Admiral responded, Thank you, Mr. Peterson. The families have been asking what happened to their loved ones. Ray continued, I have a few more things to add. We were trying to convince the new president of Afghanistan to take a strong stand against the Taliban, but he refused. What people didn't know was that the president's younger brother was a Taliban leader. If you look at any photo of the president in his office, you'll see a picture of his brother on the wall behind his desk. Ray paused, and the room filled with surprised gasps. That compound was also where the president's family lived. By chance, the person in charge of negotiating for the U.S. at the time is now our current leader. Mr. Baxter gave him the DVD the day after the mission. He knew everything and used me. Ray continued, I can't say what he knew or didn't know, but he agreed to a deal. When the president's family wanted to invest in an American company, they chose United Logistics. Tom whispered, Oh no. The room fell silent as Ray took a seat. Even the Admiral seemed at a loss for words. Finally, the Navy commander stood up and said, Admiral, as the Navy's representative, I believe we have enough evidence today to reopen the investigation into that mission. I think a group of skilled sailors did what they were trained to do and were treated unfairly. The Admiral looked at his fellow officers, gauging their reactions. I want to thank everyone who came today and shared their stories. We will meet to decide our recommendations for the Secretary of the Navy, who will determine what happens next. Please keep your calendars open for October. Thank you, and this meeting is now over. Everyone stood up and left, but I remained seated, overwhelmed by what had just been revealed. Ray, Sylvia, Emily, and I were the last to leave. I felt lost, realizing I was caught in a much larger political situation than I had ever imagined. Ray put a hand on my shoulder. Just so you know, he made that video himself and planned the hearing. There was too much at stake. I should have stopped him when I had the chance. Is he still after me? I asked. Ray sighed. I think he has bigger problems right now. The meeting he mishandled exposed some serious issues with his actions, and now he's being called to account. If this gets out, he'll likely have to step down in disgrace. Where can I find a reporter looking to make a name for themselves? I asked. Ray smiled. They all want to, but most are too scared to tell a story like this. Besides, it's not your job to go public. You fought hard and still have your own battles, including taking care of my daughter. It's time for others to step up for you and others like you. Now let's grab some lunch. I hear they have great ribs here. His mention of ribs reminded me of a tough day on the river when we met people who welcomed us with food and drinks. I hoped they were sleeping well at night. We crossed the street, and that evening, my fiancé and future mother-in-law were very gentle with me. Emily cuddled up close and said, I'm glad I know what's been bothering you. I can't imagine what you've been through, but from now on, if those nightmares come, I'll hold you and keep you safe. Sweetheart, I replied, you've already scared them away more than once. I just never told you. Sharing my story today and showing the video made me feel, I don't know, whole again. Before, it felt like a nightmare no one would believe. People would have just patted my head and told me to have another drink. But now, everyone who matters to me heard what I said and saw what I saw. It was real, and I didn't dream it. No, sweetheart, she reassured me. We saw it, and we understand why you've had troubling dreams. Now come here and let me show you how strong my love is in keeping those worries away. She definitely showed me that strength, and it was all about love. In the days that followed, neither Ray nor Tom mentioned the mission again. We each had our own challenges, but we connected well. Emily, Sylvia, and Carla became close friends. Emily brought out Sylvia's bold side, and Sylvia taught Emily when to be bold and when to be graceful. I applied for a job with the Park Service, and it turned out to be a perfect fit. They hired me, and I had the freedom to choose where to live since I'd be traveling around the state, often up and down the river. We decided to buy a place halfway between St. Louis and Columbia, with 20 acres of open land, a pond, and a well. It became the ideal spot for family gatherings. During our first family get-together, both Tom and Ray brought several calves to share with everyone. Emily reacted strongly and expressed her frustration, leading to the calves being returned to their owner. Everyone laughed except Emily, who was visibly upset. Carla and Sylvia spent the afternoon encouraging her to relax and enjoy the day again. Emily graduated and started working for the agency monitoring the Mississippi River. Carla completed her doctorate and began teaching public policy at the university. 3 years later, during our anniversary dinner, Carla, Emily, and Sylvia announced they were all expecting babies. The guys were surprised, but the girls had planned it together. We got married on August 10th in a joint ceremony, and in a moment of fun, all 6 of us decided to go to Cabo San Lucas for our honeymoon. Tom and Carla had never taken theirs because of work, so it was the perfect time. As for the other events of that summer, you can read about them in the newspapers or history books. Half the country believes it, the other half doesn't, and some don't really care at all. Thanks for listening to One Infidelity Hit. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop us a like.